Chapter 408 Kill Yangzhen. I will grant you death in the name of the Thunder Emperor. You want to leave after you've paid? There's no such a good deal in the world. Nangong Chen said slowly. Although the words were calm, Yangzhen heard them carrying a strong, murderous intent, and he couldn't help but feel a tingling sensation on his scalp. Yangzhen gritted his teeth, his eyes blazing with anger. What else do you want? Killing one person isn't enough. Do you want to kill me too? In front of everyone, he kept giving in. Do they think he was afraid? Leave your life behind. Nangong Chen didn't say much and took action directly. Yangzhen was slightly stunned, but the next moment, Chengxiao's fist light was already close at hand. His face changed immediately, and he clasped his hands together. The six-armed thunder ancestors, Fa Tianyuan D, suddenly appeared behind him. Then, without holding back at all, he summoned a 1,000-foot-long lightning bolt, which flashed in the void like a huge spider web. Black thunder, myriad methods. He roared, and the 10,000 feet long lightning continued to spread, turning into black lightning, and pounced madly towards the fist light. When the powerful people present saw this, their eyes were stunned. The Black Thunder Wanfa is one of the unique skills of the Wanfa Thunder sect. It can penetrate the heaven and earth. It is a very terrifying thunder method. It has extremely terrifying suppression on those who are infected. It can even make people lose their strength in battle. They didn't expect that Yangzhen had mastered it so thoroughly, and the 10,000 feet Black Thunder had already reached the realm of great success. If any other quasi-saint were to deal with it, he would probably be electrocuted to death today and would be unable to resist. This also made many people curious. Can people with double pupils really break through this thunder spell? Boom! The domineering fist light turned into a white jade unicorn, which tore a hole in the 1,000-foot Black Thunder. Yangzhen's pupils suddenly shrank, and he slammed his palms out, trying to close the sea of thunder and wrap up Nangong Chen's body. However, everything was in vain. The terrifying fist light had already reached him, and no Black Thunder could offer any resistance. Boom! With a loud bang, Yangzhen was smashed into the ancient wooden arena by Nangong Chen again like a cannonball, and the place was bottomless. A few breaths passed. Cough! At the bottom of the deep pit, Yangzhen coughed up a mouthful of blood. His body was almost broken and bleeding. His purple clothes were covered in blood plasma and filth. He was completely different from before. At this moment, Yangzhen looked at Nangong Chen with eyes full of regret. He should not have believed Xiang Kunlun's nonsense and attacked him just now. The opponent's physical body was so strong that he was not even human. He had never seen such terrifying physical strength in a physical cultivator. Even the legendary true dragon descendant would probably have to bow down in front of him. If you want to fight, then fight. Yangzhen roared, and his body burst into lightning, constantly recovering from his injuries. His Thunder Dao combat body is not inferior to anyone. This is why Yangzhen was still so lively after taking 2 punches from Nangong Chen. If it were Xiang Kunlun, he would have fallen down with just 1 punch. The battle body has always been known to become more courageous as the battle goes on, let alone this extremely domineering lightning. He condensed the image of Thunder Ancestor again and stood in the void. Under the tattered, purple clothes, there was an astonishing aura. Behind him, Black Thunder was rolling, and in the midst of lightning and thunder, terrifying power was gathering. When Nangong Chen saw this scene, there was some surprise in his eyes. Yes, he can still be full of energy after taking a couple of punches. He's a handy punching bag. Soon, Yangzhen used fighting to support his fighting and returned to the peak. When his eyes opened and closed, there were flashes of lightning. With the blessing of Lei Zhu behind him, he was like a thunder god. In the name of Thunder Ancestor, I will bring down divine punishment and sentence you to death. He spoke, his tone full of majesty and murderous intent. Beneath the Black Thunder, an extremely terrifying aura emanated, causing everyone present to take a few steps back. Some of those with weaker cultivation even vomited blood. Even so, their eyes were still burning with excitement, and they didn't dare to blink and miss it. This was definitely the most powerful battle they had ever seen. After seeing this scene, hope rekindled in the eyes of the Tianyuan tribe and others. It seems like they still have a chance. If they can defeat that young man, they can get 3 keys to the wilderness, which is definitely a huge temptation. You want to sentence me to death just for the sake of the name of Thunder Ancestor? Ridiculous. Nangong Chen's eyes were dim, his brows were calm, and his tone was disdainful. I can use you to try out the second stage of the Thunder Emperor's magic. Nangong Chen just stood there, his black hair flying, his body shrouded in divine light, as if surrounded by a touch of imperial aura, looking even more ethereal and noble, like a young monarch. The next moment, behind him, a sky full of purple divine thunder emerged, filling the entire sky, like a purple divine sea. Purple thunders intertwined, and the thunder in the sky was panicking. Just the aura emitted made the entire wilderness tremble, and countless creatures wailed. They smelled a hint of destruction in it, as if they saw a terrifying vision of the annihilation of all things, the collapse of mountains and rivers, and the sun, moon, and stars turning into ruins. At this moment, even the black thunder released by Yang Zhan retreated away from him, as if it had met its natural nemesis and wanted to surrender. Nangong Chen stood in the purple sea of thunder. The lightning reflected on his handsome face. His double pupils were dim, giving him a terrifying majesty. At this moment, he was more orthodox than Yang Zhan, who came from Wanfa Leizong. When Yang Zhan saw this scene, a hint of horror flashed in the depths of his eyes, and there was even more fear. That was the fear of the way of heaven. Obviously, the purple divine thunder summoned by Nangong Chen was already very close to the thunder tribulation sent down by the Heavenly Dao. I saw the white clothes swaying, and a cold voice sounded without any doubt. In the name of the Thunder Emperor, I suppress the scoundrels and sentence you to death. The next moment, the terrifying purple divine thunder suddenly fell, like a hungry beast entering a flock of lambs, and instantly rushed into the black thunder, devouring it madly. The blinding lightning flashed in the sky. This clash of thunder made it almost impossible for everyone to open their eyes. They could only vaguely see the purple lightning shining brightly. Obviously, the outcome of this battle has been decided at this moment. Yang Zhan was in a daze, his whole body entangled by the purple divine thunder. Before he died, he finally became somewhat aware. Thunder Emperor. So this is the legendary Thunder Emperor magic. This was the technique he had been pursuing all his life. Now that he had died at the hands of this technique, he felt so bad. His expression was complicated, but also somewhat satisfied. To be honest, he didn't regret attacking Nangong Chen today. He only blamed himself for not being stronger and why that palm lightning didn't kill him directly. As the purple divine thunder roared, Yang Zhan's soul completely disappeared from the world. At this point, Yang Zhan completely fell. Soon, the divine thunder dissipated, and the sky returned to its usual tranquility. Under that ray of light, the figure of the young man in white was so handsome and extraordinary. Everyone was looking at him, and at this moment, the other party was the focus of the whole audience. After a few breaths, the fierce cheers gradually sounded. Those with double pupils are invincible. Those with double pupils are invincible. In the wilderness competition, you fought two opponents at once. Who wouldn't be amazed? From today onwards, the reputation of those with double pupils will once again shake the entire Xinjiang region. The young boys and girls all focused their eyes on Nangong Chen, their eyes full of passion. No one had expected that in the wilderness competition, where the quasi-saint was just a threshold, a person with double pupils at the Divine King level would actually emerge. Everyone even thought that the person with double pupils would most likely be at the bottom of the list this time, and believed that it would not be as easy for him to perform as among the geniuses. However, they did not expect that the other party would give them another big surprise, using the realm of God King to fight 1 against 2. He crushed Xiang Kunlun, a strong man of the older generation, and Yang Zhan, a strong man of the new generation. Of course, the two men's deaths at the hands of the man with double pupils were their own fault. Who told them to be so cruel to a junior in the wilderness competition, even at the cost of destroying the opponent's soul? Otherwise, any other genius who encountered this situation today would die with regrets. But fortunately, the opponent is a person with double pupils. Perhaps only a person with double pupils can exert such amazing strength. At this moment, the 4 major families approached the arena. The Tianyuan and Hefeng tribes were extremely embarrassed. They had never expected that such a good hand of cards would end up like this. Even at the last moment, when he saw that Yang Zhan's key to the wilderness was taken away by the young man, Tua spat out a mouthful of blood and fainted. On the Feather Clan side, everyone was also filled with emotion and was glad that their foreign aid did not go up, otherwise they would probably have ended up like the previous 2. At the same time, the happiest people are none other than our spiritual race. The whole family cheered loudly, cried with joy, and hugged each other. Lan Linchuan was silent for the first time in a long time, and his eyes were filled with tears as he watched this scene. He had been waiting for this moment for so long, and finally it came to him. At this moment, he had to admire the decision his father made back then and felt ashamed of his previous stubbornness. In the void, the man wearing the Shura mask looked at this scene, his mouth corners slightly raised. Well done. The terrifying aura emanating from his body constantly shows that his strength is not simple. Even saints do not have such an oppressive feeling. If Xiang Kunlun and Yang Zhan had known that there was a Saint King watching over them before the wilderness competition, they probably would not have dared to take action. But fortunately, Nangong Chen thought of this and did not let Shura reveal his aura. On the stage, Nangong Chen collected the 3 keys of the wilderness, his eyes flashing as he examined them carefully. Of course, the prerequisite for him to do so is naturally to obtain the permission of the Wuling clan. Otherwise, he would not observe in such a public place. Is this the fragment of the human emperor's reincarnation seal? Nangong Chen pondered its outline and said thoughtfully, on this key to the wilderness, each piece is indeed engraved with various strange methods, but they are not complete, and most of them are mainly based on the physical body. It's no wonder that although the people in the wilderness are all strong and powerful, few of them can break through to become saints. The methods are incomplete, so even the geniuses from the 3 states cannot break through. However, if someone has seen more than 2 keys to the wilderness, it is not difficult to find that there is a mysterious ancient method connected to them. This ancient method tells the mystery of reincarnation, which is extremely mysterious. Just by comprehending it a little, you will find that it has a great source. Even if one can comprehend some of the surface aspects of it, breaking through to the quasi-saint level will not be a problem. Of course, the prerequisite is that you have more than 2 keys to the wilderness. In other words, if one has 2 or more keys to the wilderness, one can cultivate to the level beyond quasi-saint. Is there anyone in the Black Wind clan who has mastered this method and cultivated to the level of a saint? He couldn't help but think that in his memory, the other party should be the only family in the Wild family that possessed 2 keys to the wilderness. After a brief moment of contemplation, Nangong Chen withdrew his gaze and gave up. Although the 3 pieces already explained most of the ancient method, there was still 1 piece missing. Soon, Nangong Chen set his sights on Su Rue, who was still diligently carving a formation under the arena. Chapter 409. How about match? I only need 2 more steps to complete my maze. Once it's complete, even a saint who dares to step inside will be stuck for a whole day. 2 sticks of incense have passed. The one with double pupils should be able to hold on for a while. Hold on a little longer and wait for me to set up the formation. On the ring, Su Rue was immersed in his own world, looking at the formation in front of him and muttering. It turned out that he had just received the message from Yu Qiong and realized that the situation had changed. His mission had also changed from just guarding the wilderness key of their Yu clan to supporting those with double pupils. Since he had only prepared a formation for himself, he could not help much if he went to support. So he came up with a plan to use the formation to trap Xiang Kunlun and Yang Zhen and help the man with double pupils win the championship. In this way, not only can the mission of the Feather Clan be completed perfectly, but Xiang Kunlun and Yang Zhen will not be offended. As a person who has always been honest and dutiful, he thought this method was perfect. But what puzzled him was why there was no sound from above after such a short time. Is the fight over? That's impossible. Didn't we just see Xiang Kunlun going up? Could it be that the man with double pupils was too weak and was killed instantly by Xiang Kunlun? There's no way. Thinking of this, Su Rei took a deep breath, his heart trembled, and he quickly looked up. If that's the case, I'd be a sinner. In front of him, in the core arena, there was no trace of Xiang Kunlun or Yang Zhen, only a figure in fluttering snow-white clothes and a vague and ethereal aura. Where are the people? Su Rue was startled and looked around quickly, but he couldn't see the shadow of the 2 people. What surprised him was that everyone else present seemed to be looking at him with a smile. Seeing this, he scratched his head. Could it be that the competition was temporarily interrupted and the 2 went to rest? Or is the wilderness competition already over? Oh no, I really won't miss it this time. Su Rue quickly raised his head and looked towards Nangong Chen and asked in a panic, Young friend Nangong, have you seen fellow Taoist Yang and fellow Taoist Yang? As soon as these words were spoken, not only did Nangong Chen's face become interesting, but even the other people present had strange expressions on their faces, with a hint of smile on their lips. Could it be that Elder Su didn't know what was happening? Under the ring, Zhu Ying held her forehead with her hands, seeming a little helpless. She knew that her uncle was too focused and didn't know what was happening in the outside world. There's no way around it. This is a common problem for every formation master. Whenever they're immersed in carving a formation, they're so focused that they're completely unaware of any changes in the outside world. Even she herself is no exception. On the central stage, Nangong Chen seemed to have guessed something, and the corners of his mouth slightly raised as he whispered, Dead. Because of Zhu Ying, he still has a slight favorable impression towards the Tianjin Holy Land. When the women in the audience saw that smile, they screamed and squeezed their legs together. They must have seen it right. The extremely cold-blooded man with double pupils could actually reveal such a gentle smile, coupled with that handsome and angelic face of a young boy, which is extremely bright. Like the warm sun, he could be regarded as a girl killer. No, it can even be said to be a young woman killer. Even Yu Qiong, who was known as the most beautiful woman in the wilderness, was stunned by her mature and beautiful face at this moment. If she had not seen the boy's decisive and murderous methods, she would probably have thought that he was just an innocent and good child. The only person who showed strong emotions in the whole audience was probably Su Rue. Dead. Su Rue staggered suddenly. His breathing became unstable, but his eyes were still suspicious. How could he be dead? Did the other party think that he was easy to fool because he was old? You know, those two are not ordinary people. If a saint said this, he might believe it. Where did he die? He narrowed his eyes and said in a deep voice. Underfoot. Nangong Chen said calmly, moving away without any change in his expression. When Su Rue saw this, his pupils suddenly shrank. No, what did he see? Next to Nangong Chen's silver boots, there was indeed a dead body lying with its eyes open, and there was a big hole in its chest. If it weren't for the half-broken sword, he really wouldn't have recognized that this was Xiang Kunlun, and nearby, he even saw scattered blackened purple clothes, as if they had been bombed by lightning, which was shocking. However, the owner of the purple clothes seemed to have disappeared long ago. He fell silent immediately. He recognized that this was clearly Yang Zhen's clothes. So, those two people were really killed by the young man in front of him. He was silent for a moment, his throat was dry, and he didn't know what to say. After a long moment, he swallowed and grumbled, "How did you do that?" Even after killing the two men, the white clothes on his body were still spotless, like white jade. It is hard to imagine that this was a one-sided massacre. Nangong Chen didn't respond. He just looked at the wilderness key on his waist, his eyes flashing, and asked, "How about a fight?" Huh? Su Rue was stunned. Not only him, but everyone else present was shocked after hearing it. The person with double pupils didn't even let go of the last one. The smile on Yuqiong's lips froze, and her beautiful eyes glared at Lan Linchuan, as if asking him to give her an explanation. Lan Linchuan was also a little confused. He didn't expect that the other party was so warlike that they would not even let go of the foreign aid of the Yu clan. He smiled awkwardly, not knowing what to say, and looked a little ashamed. On the stage, Su Rue came to his senses and quickly waved his hand to refuse. "No, I can't beat you." He knows his own limitations and knows he is no match for the other party, so he won't go up to him anyway. Upon hearing this, Nangong Chen shook his head and said, "No duel." Then what? Just compare the formation. Nangong Chen's white robe fluttered, his face calm, as if he had infinite confidence. He took out the 3 wilderness keys and shook them slightly. "If you win, all 3 wilderness keys will be yours. If I win, your wilderness key will be mine. How about that?" At this moment, everyone was stunned and stared at the scene in a daze. Yuqiong's previous dissatisfaction disappeared, and her red lips opened slightly. Even Lan Linchuan, who was standing by, couldn't help but widen his eyes. No one expected that Nangong Chen would play such a big game. Not far away, Heidi was also a little shocked, but as if he had thought of something, he sneered softly. "I don't care who gets the wilderness key in the end. When this immortal hiding is over, it will all belong to our Black Wind clan." As he spoke, his tone was full of confidence. He wanted to see if these people could still laugh after the ancestor came out of seclusion. After Yuqiong came back to her senses, she looked towards Su Rue on the stage and quickly said, "Promise him." She was extremely excited and afraid of missing out on such a good thing. At this moment, Yuqiong's eyes had changed when she looked at Nangong Chen. She licked her lips slightly, as if she was looking at a lamb to be slaughtered. On the side, the members of the Feather Clan also had expressions of deep joy on their faces. They had not expected that there would be such a surprise at the last moment. You know, the Su Rue they invited this time is the elder of the Tianjin Holy Land. What is the origin of the Tianjin Holy Land? As far as they know, it is the holy land for cultivation in the hearts of all the formation masters in the world, and every formation master dreams of entering it. This is enough to prove that the value of this Tianjin Holy Land is extremely high. The formation masters who can come out of it are all well-known figures, not to mention their elders. They had no idea how they could lose. It was a sure win. On the other side, the Wuling tribe and others stared at each other, not knowing what to say for a moment, and could only look at the tribe leader who was in the lead. "Chief, is my friend sure he can win?" Someone whispered. After all, these 3 keys to the wilderness were won by Nangong Chen, and they had no right to question him too much. Lan Linchuan's face was also a little puzzled. He really didn't know whether Nangong Chen could win. "I think so." Lan Imo looked at Juing. Before coming here, he had heard that the young woman traveling with the crown prince of the Divine Dynasty was no ordinary person. She was the saint of the heavenly array Holy Land. Seeing that the other person's expression did not change, he could easily judge that there should be another turn of events. On the ring, Su Rue was a little hesitant after hearing Yuqiong's words. There were rumors in the 3 states that the formation of the person with double pupils was not simple. But he had been in seclusion for some time and had not seen it in person, so he didn't know what level the other party was. Thinking of this, he didn't know what to say and could only nod in agreement. Su Rui looked at Nangong Chen with blazing eyes and asked, "How do you want to compete?" Comparing formations with others couldn't help but arouse his bellicosity. You know, he had absolute confidence in formations. If he can defeat the opponent, he will surely become famous after today. Moreover, he was a little bothered when he saw Zhu Ying following the other party. After all, Zhu Ying was the holy maiden of their holy land. How could she do such a servant job? He wanted to see what ability this kid had that could make Saint Lady Zhu follow him. How about we each cast a formation and see who can break it faster? Nangong Chen's brows were calm as he spoke slowly. Okay, this is it. Su Rui's eyes gleamed, and he nodded impatiently, fearing that the other party would go back on his word. You know, there are differences among formation masters, and it just so happens that the area he excels in is exactly the formation deconstruction. Even in the holy land of Heavenly Array, not even the Holy Lord's speed in breaking the array was as fast as his. If the opponent competes with him in breaking the formation speed, he will definitely lose. Below, Zhu Ying saw this scene. The corners of her mouth curled up slightly, and her smile was so beautiful that it could captivate the whole country. My uncle can really deliver it in time. She couldn't help but look forward to how her uncle would react after a master won. It must be very interesting. You go first. Nangong Chen spoke calmly, without any hurry, his snow-white clothes fluttering in the wind, giving him the demeanor of a young master. When the women present saw this, their beautiful eyes lit up. After saying this, Su Rui did not refuse too much. He waved his hand and shouted, "Get up." All I could see on the surface of the ancient wooden arena were terrifying runes, covering the entire arena like a spiderweb. The mysterious handwriting flickered, and the sky was filled with light, and an ancient aura burst out. Soon, on one side of the ancient wooden arena, corresponding to the direction where Nangong Chen was, countless broken mirrors rose up, surrounded by mist, like a fairyland, and instantly swallowed up the figure in white, disappearing. Seeing this, Su Rui's face was filled with pride. This is the Thousand Cloud Realm formation, my masterpiece today. I didn't expect it to be used on this kid. I'm not bragging. This saint-level formation, even if a saint came in person today, it would still take a whole day to break it. If an ordinary person goes in, he might be trapped in this formation for his entire life. Upon hearing this, everyone present couldn't help but shrink their pupils, secretly marveling at the terrifying methods of this formation master. They didn't dare to think that if the competition was extended to give Su Rui enough time, it would be hard to say who would be the champion today. Chapter 4:10. Breaking the formation in one breath. An unexpected event occurs. Soon, Su Rui waved his hand and a mirror appeared in front of him. The mirror reflected the image of Nangong Chen in the Tianyuan mirror formation. In the picture, Nangong Chen was at the center of countless mirrors. He had a calm expression, and even though he was trapped in the formation, he remained calm. Seeing that Nangong Chen was unmoved, Su Rui thought that he was trapped by him and laughed. In order to prevent his cries for help from going unheard by me, I have specially taken out this ancient mirror to prevent any unexpected accidents later. The monks present nodded slightly at this move, with a glint of approval in their eyes. I didn't expect that the elders of the Tianjin Holy Land would be so humane and considerate. Compared to the deceased Xiang Kunlun and Yang Zhen, Su Rui's style of strength is recognized by the world. Below the stage, the people of the Feather Clan were extremely excited when they heard what Su Rui said. It seems that they will definitely be able to obtain the 3 keys to the wilderness today. Yu Qiong's beautiful eyes also flashed with a strange light, and a smile could not help but appear on her majestic face. She murmured, "This foreign aid is really worth it." Soon, she closed her eyes and rested. She believed that Nangong Chen could not break the formation so quickly. On the other hand, compared to the cheerful atmosphere of the Feather Clan, the Wuling clan felt a bit depressed. Is it true that I'm going to give away the 3 wilderness keys I worked so hard to obtain like this? Someone whispered. Lan Linchuan was silent for a while, and his throat became extremely dry. I believe him. After all, such miracles have been created before, so this little bit is not a big deal. If he was really defeated by the Yu clan, the worst that could happen was that he would be thick-skinned and go ask for it back. He believed that Yu Qiong would not refuse. Suddenly, a cry of surprise came from the audience. Look, the mirror is broken. After he finished speaking, everyone looked up. On the ancient wooden arena, the 1,000-cloud mirror formation was broken in an instant, and the mirrors in the sky shattered and scattered like snowflakes, which was extremely beautiful. And in it, on a road covered with crystal fragments, a figure in white slowly walked out, still so ethereal and fairy-like. The snow-white robe was spotless, and the scattered petals in the sky seemed to be intentionally avoiding him, falling somewhere else. At this moment, between heaven and earth, there was only the continuous sound of shattering, nothing else. Everyone stared at this scene in amazement, their pupils filled with shock. How long has it been? It seems like a breath. The most shocked person here was Su Rue. He opened his eyes wide, as if he had seen a ghost. His mind went blank, and he stopped in midair. He couldn't believe that the formation he had spent so much time on was broken by a person with double pupils in just a moment. Even if the Holy Lord came in person, he wouldn't be able to move at such a terrifying speed. At this moment, thinking of what he had just said, Su Rue couldn't help but blush, feeling like he was slapped in the face. And below the ring, the reactions of the Feather Clan members were like a roller coaster, rising and falling and silent. They saw that this formation was indeed terrifying, but they could not withstand it because the opponent was too evil. Yuqiong also had a gloomy expression and didn't know what to say. I can only pray in my heart that Su Rue will be able to break the opponent's formation faster. On the side of the Wuling clan, after everyone recovered from their shock, they all looked happy and excited. Who would have thought that the young man would create a miracle again? The previously suppressed emotions were swept away, and they even saw hope of collecting all 4 keys to the wilderness. Lan Linchuan even stood up and clapped his hands in applause, his eyes full of admiration for Nangong Chen. Lan Mo, Lan Xian, and Lan Jia breathed a sigh of relief, with excitement in their eyes. How did you do that? Su Rue couldn't speak clearly and spoke tremblingly. If he hadn't seen that Nangong Chen was no different from before, he would have wanted to stick a yellow talisman on his head to see if he was a human or a ghost. He was very familiar with the 1,000-cloud mirror formation. If he were to crack it himself, it would take at least half a day, but this was already fast. The other party actually only took a moment. What concept? He cracked it with just one look. Seeing him like this, Nangong Chen didn't want to say anything more to provoke him, so he said calmly, "It was just a fluke." After saying this, Su Rue's eyes went dark. If he had been lucky, he wouldn't have spent so much time studying the formation. However, he still had some doubts, so he said to Nangong Chen, "Come, let me see what kind of evil formation yours is. Whether it is just luck or fluke, you will be able to tell at a glance." Nangong Chen nodded slightly, then clenched his 5 fingers silently. In an instant, Su Rue didn't even see his movements clearly, and everything went dark before his eyes. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself somewhere else. Here it is. Looking at the memories of his childhood and his younger self, Su Rue fell into deep silence. In the outside world, one breath, it's here. Nangong Chen counted silently in his mind. His eyes lit up slightly, and he reached out his hand. The next moment, Su Rue, who was already unconscious on the ancient wooden arena, had the key to the wilderness at his waist fly out of thin air and into Nangong Chen's hands. And Su Rue was still sleeping there, even occasionally shouting, "Mom." Everyone was shocked when they saw this scene. This isn't too easy. Zhuing was not surprised at all. She just watched quietly. She knew very well how terrifying Nangong Chen was, and had long anticipated that her uncles would not be his match. With the collection of the last piece of the wild key, it means that Nangong Chen has eliminated today's 3 opponents and has undoubtedly become the champion of this wild competition. Oh my God, am I dreaming? Lan Linchuan murmured to himself, as if everything before him was just a carefully prepared dream. But when he actually saw that Nangong Chen was the only one on the ancient wooden arena, the emotions that had accumulated over the years suddenly burst out. "We are the champions." His eyes were wet as he yelled, "We are the champions of the wilderness competition." The other tribesmen also cheered, hugged each other, and cried with joy. On the other side, on the side of the Feather Clan, Yuqiong's face suddenly turned dark, her hands clenched, and no one knew what she was thinking. If I had known this would happen, I should not have agreed to the young man's request. Now, I have nothing left. Of course, she was willing to accept defeat and soon calmed down, congratulating Lan Linchuan. Congratulations to the Wuling clan for winning the championship of this wilderness competition. Lan Linchuan laughed and promised her that if he had the chance in the future, he would return the key to the wilderness that belonged to them. Upon hearing this, Yuqiong nodded, and her favorable impression of the Wuling clan increased a lot. Even looking at the young man on the stage, he couldn't help but feel more pleasing to the eye. On the ring, Nangong Chen gently played with the Feather Clan's wilderness key. Before he could take out the other 3 pieces, a terrifying murderous force descended from the sky. Boom! There was a loud bang, and a deep pit was created where Nangong Chen was just now, with thick smoke rising up. The monks from the 3 states present were attracted by the commotion before they had time to sigh. "What's going on?" someone said in surprise. Before they could react, thousands of wild people appeared all around. They had cold eyes, were wearing ferrets and were riding giant black tigers. They all had unfriendly expressions and carried a powerful aura. In an instant, they blocked the entire arena. On the ring, the thick smoke dissipated and a figure gradually emerged. It was a human being nearly 3 meters tall, with loose white hair, eyes that flashed like cold lightning, and a terrifying aura. Just standing there, with his blood surging and his power surging, he brought an indescribable pressure to people, which was far beyond the reach of Xiang Kunlun and others. Obviously, this is a saint. Oh, He Wuhuan was also stunned when he saw that his punch did not produce any blood mist. He then looked towards a corner with a ferocious smile on his face. Interesting. Soon, with the sound of footsteps, Head and his group walked towards the ring. They looked at the 3-meter-tall giant with fiery eyes and said respectfully, in unison, "We have met the ancestor." Seeing this scene, everyone was stunned for a moment. The saint who suddenly attacked Nangong Chen was actually the ancestor of the Black Wind clan. "Everyone, this is the gift I prepared for you today. Do you like it?" Head turned his head and looked at the Wuling people and others, raised the corner of his mouth, and spoke. "What are you up to?" Lan Linchuan's pupils shrank slightly, and he asked loudly. Head sneered. "What to do? Isn't it obvious? Of course, I will kill you. I originally wanted to wait until the competition was over before taking action, but I didn't expect such an unexpected incident to happen to you, the Wuling clan." Lan Linchuan was furious. He didn't expect that this black would be so ambitious and want to kill them all in public. He understood instantly that the Black Wind clan must have made sufficient preparations for today. But what puzzled him was that the Black Wind clan's ancestor was dead. So why was he still alive and had even reached the saint level? Had no longer paid attention to him and fixed his eyes on a spot on the ring, his murderous intent bursting out. "Do you really think that you can escape alive by winning our wilderness key? How naive. Even if that saint dragon protects you today, you will die here." What made him most unhappy today was the sudden appearance of this young man, who completely disrupted all their plans. Why did he make a young boy like him behave so humbly for so long? Chapter 411. Destroying the two clans, the Black Wind clan's inhumane plan. Not far from the arena, Nangong Chen was holding Su Rue in his hands, his face calm. Even when facing so many people from the Black Wind clan, his eyes never showed any fear. He put Su Rue down casually, brushed off the dust on his white clothes, and with his pupils, he quickly understood the situation. Black eats black? How interesting. He muttered in his heart, but a playful smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. "Do you really think I'll come here alone?" After these words were spoken, the expressions of the people of the Black Wind clan changed slightly. From the void, a figure in black armor stepped into the air, wearing a Shura mask on his head. His aura was as deep as the ocean, and when his eyes opened and closed, there was an astonishing force. Just by walking there, the terrifying pressure spread like an air wave, shaking the void and making the ancient trees sway. All the people from the Black Wind clan and the Tianyuan clan on the ring suddenly fell to their knees without any warning. Their faces changed drastically. Their eyes were filled with panic, and they stared blankly at the figure in the sky. Even the 3-meter-tall giant He Wuhuan was no exception. He knelt on the ground and crawled, feeling that his limbs were pressed down by a gravity of 10,000 pounds, making him unable to move. "Who are you?" Head asked tremblingly with a look of panic, looking into the void. "Kill your people," Shura said calmly. His eyes beneath the mask were cold, yet filled with terrifying murderous intent. At this moment, everything is silent. The cultivators from the 3 states on all 4 sides of the arena suddenly felt the pressure from the Black Tiger Guards recede like a tide, and they felt relieved. The reason was simple. It was the appearance of the man in the void that made these people kneel down. Soon, they looked at the figure in the void with excitement and gratitude. When they saw the person coming, their pupils suddenly shrank, and they actually felt that this person looked familiar. "Hey, he is Shura." There was no way. Shura's features were too obvious. The terrifying pressure and mask were enough to identify him as the other party. What's more, Shura had revealed his identity as a member of the Tianyuan divine dynasty in the previous battle in Chu City. After everyone recognized each other, they breathed hotly and their eyes were filled with excitement. If the other party was Shura, nothing would have happened today, and we would have left safely. He is an extremely powerful man. Why should he be afraid of the saint of the Black Wind clan? The Wuling and Yu tribes were also watching this scene. When they heard that a terrifying and powerful man had just arrived as the evil young man finished speaking, they knew in their hearts that the powerful man was most likely the other party's protector. Lan Linchuan and the others immediately breathed a sigh of relief. They had witnessed the opponent's divine power in Chu City that day. With him here, the encirclement and suppression by the Black Wind clan today will be ineffective. At the same time, he also secretly lamented the horror behind Nangong Chen. Such a powerful man actually followed him, which was enough to prove the other party's nobility in his power. Yu Qiong had a cold and beautiful face as she was also watching this scene. Her calm eyes were now filled with horror. With just a wisp of breath, she could feel the gap between herself and the person in the void, which was bottomless, like a chasm. She looked at Nangong Chen and thought to herself, is this the confidence behind his coming this time? As expected, being in the wilderness is far less exciting than the outside world. Under the gaze of everyone, Shura first gave the Black Wind clan and the others a show of force, then turned around and saluted Nangong Chen like a crown prince. Meet the prince. The tone was respectful, without a trace of resistance. It was a reaction that only came from complete submission to the other party. You are too polite, General Shura. Nangong Chen responded with a slight bow, his eyes flashing as he looked at the other person. It was the first time he had seen this legendary figure in person. Before this, he had only heard of him from his father. Of course, he also knew that the last time in Chu City, the other party in Yamian came to rescue them. It seemed that the old man from Tianyuan Academy was also there. Nangong Chen remembered all of this clearly. After he woke up, Nangong Chen said it more than once. After taking a look, Nangong Chen secretly sighed that the other party's aura was not simple. He was worthy of being one of the few people in the Divine Dynasty who had stepped above the Saint King. In fact, there was no Saint King before the Divine Dynasty, because the entire Divine Dynasty belonged to the Xiantian realm, and in the Xiantian realm, there were rules and restrictions that did not allow anyone stronger to enter a realm above the Saint. Otherwise, one would be punished by God and die, or be exiled to the upper realm. Because of this reason, his grandfather was stuck in the realm of Saint for 10,000 years. It was not until he placed the Imperial Dragon Vein in the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty that his grandfather accidentally discovered one day that the mysterious rules had suddenly disappeared. This also pushed several subsequent peak saints, such as Shura, Yamian, and Kong Sheng, to enter the realm of Saint King. This matter was a secret of the Divine Dynasty, and he only learned about it from Nangong Chen after he woke up. Not only that, Nangong Chen also discovered that the horror of the Imperial Dragon Vein was far more than that. The spiritual rain that fell that day pushed nearly hundreds of millions of civilians to awaken their talents, and even the 8 great generals stepped into the ranks of saints. Nangong Chen couldn't help but laugh when he recalled the extremely excited tone his father used when he spoke to him that day. This Imperial Dragon Vein is so powerful that it can transcend the laws of nature in this area. Soon, after a brief recollection, he focused his attention on the situation in front of him. Everyone was watching this scene. Although they had expected it, they were still shocked when they actually saw such a powerful figure like Shura saluting the man with double pupils. In this world, perhaps only the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty would send a Saint King to protect Tianjiao. On the stage, the Black Wind clan and others were already nervous, and when they saw with their own eyes that the mysterious strong man had an extraordinary relationship with the young man, they felt even colder in their hearts. Let me go, I'm going to kill you. At this moment, the suppressed He Wuhuan suddenly rioted. A flash of scarlet flashed across his eyes, and his whole aura suddenly became extremely violent. Seeing this, Shura wanted to end the other person's life, but was stopped by Nangong Chen. Nangong Chen looked at He Wuhuan, frowning slightly, thinking he had actually seen the other party in this state on the winged ox ancestor who was killed by the girl with double pupils that day. According to the girl with double pupils, it was contaminated by black fog. Could it be that this desolate land is one of the few places in Xiantian domain where the black fog has penetrated? Thinking of this, his face became a little heavy. He knew very well the horror that would follow the pollution of the black fog. If it spread to the 3 states, all lives would be devastated and everything would be polluted. Thinking of this, Nangong Chen looked at that hide and said coldly, has he ever been to certain places? He just didn't believe that the other party's ancestor had become like this and had nothing to do with their Black Wind clan. Shura, who was standing aside, also frowned after seeing the He Wuhuan state. Obviously, he also noticed that something was wrong with the other party. And around them, the cultivators from the 3 states were also silent, looking at He Wuhuan with eyes full of fear. What kind of monster is this? Oh my God. Even the people of the Wuling and Yu tribes had expressions of disbelief on their faces. It's hard to imagine that this is the ancestor of the Black Wind clan. On the ring, as soon as Nangong Chen finished speaking, the people from the Black Wind clan who were lying on the ground seemed to remember something. Their bodies trembled, their eyes were filled with fear, and no one dared to speak. It was obvious that they knew something. Only that Hyde had a flicker of unwillingness in his eyes, clenched his 5 fingers, and said, if you give me a little more time, you will all die here today. Why? I just happened to meet an unlucky star like you. I'm so unwilling to do that. It doesn't matter. After I die, you will all die. All of you must die. Not one could be left behind. not one can be left behind. He gritted his teeth, looking mad and crazy, his eyes full of bloodshot, as if he was about to transform. The next moment, a flash of sword light appeared. Blood gushed out, and the head flew high. "You talk a lot." Nangong Chen put away the magic sword, said coldly, and went straight forward to search the soul. Haitian was watching from the side and was terrified. His urine soaked the floor and gave off a fishy smell. The other tribesmen also showed fear on their faces. If they were not suppressed by the gravity, they would have turned around and ran away. Seeing that Nangong Chen was going to search his soul, Shura also stepped forward to protect him. After a few breaths, Nangong Chen clenched his 5 fingers, opened his eyes, and instantly crushed Hyde's soul. His eyes had never been so cold as he scanned everyone on the ring. "Kill them all, leaving no one behind." Nangong Chen spoke, his words extremely cold. When these words were spoken, the faces of the monks watching were shocked. They were puzzled as to what Nangong Chen had seen during the soul search that made him so furious after coming out. However, they soon understood. When the people from the Black Wind and Tianyuan tribes heard that they were about to die, they seemed like different people. Their bodies trembled violently, and the clarity in their eyes gradually disappeared, turning into a crimson glow. "Kill you, kill you." At this moment, thousands of people on the field had red eyes and were roaring. The terrifying, murderous intent devoured their hearts and souls, making people dare not look directly at them. At the same time, their aura was surging. Some people even saw that an elder of the Black Wind clan was about to break through from quasi-saint to saint. But not long after, Shura made his move. He just stood there, his 5 fingers suddenly clenched. The next moment, streams of blood mist erupted from the arena, like blood-red flowers blooming. Even the quasi-saint who was about to become a saint was unable to fight back and turned into a bloody mist. Soon, the field was covered in bright red, with blood everywhere. What was puzzling was why the blood was black and had an unpleasant pungent smell. Nangong Chen took a deep breath, his pupils became bright red, and a flash of fire flickered in them. In a moment, a terrifying black flame suddenly descended and burned fiercely, burning all the blood and water, leaving not a drop. Everyone saw that this flame seemed to be a natural nemesis for the black blood. Wherever it burned, the black blood would sizzle, as if it were making a shrill cry, which was terrifying. Then, Nangong Chen ignored the 4 wilderness keys and looked at Lan Mo, saying in a deep voice, "Where is the Black Wind clan?" Seeing this, Lan Mo and the others knew that something big had happened in the Black Wind clan, so they hurriedly led the way. At this moment, the remaining Black Tiger Guards on the field were also wiped out by Shura, leaving only the cultivators from the 3 states, as well as the members of the Wuling and Yu tribes. Everyone stared at each other in amazement, feeling that this place was even more eerie. Not long after, the monks from the 3 states dispersed and returned to their homes. As for the Yu clan, after Yu Qiong asked some of the senior members to follow her to the Black Wind clan, she told the others to return to the clan first. After a few breaths, the ancient wooden arena was extremely empty, with no one else there. The wild competition officially came to an end. "What, sir, are you saying that the Black Wind clan has been conducting experiments on living people?" On the way to the Black Wind clan's ancestral land, Lan Mo spoke while panting, his eyes full of disbelief. Beside him, Lan Linchuan and Yu Qiong were equally shocked, staring blankly at Nangong Chen in front of them. Nangong Chen nodded slightly, without slowing down at all. The road leading to the Black Wind clan's ancestral land was littered with the corpses of monsters and humans. There were corpses everywhere, including girls aged 5 or 6, as well as old men over 60. Without exception, they were all brutally dismembered and their bodies were filled with black mist. Even though they had been dead for a long time, a faint black mist still remained on their corpses. Seeing this shocking scene, everyone's pupils shrank and their hearts began to palpitate. Soon, their confusion turned into anger. Their eyes turned red and their veins bulged. Obviously, some of these faces are their tribesmen, their children whom they have not seen for a long time, and even their parents who have disappeared in the wilderness for a long time. Beast! This Hyde is simply a beast. Lan Linchuan gritted his teeth, murderous intent bursting out, wishing he could tear Black into pieces. He asked why so many people in the family disappeared inexplicably every year. They were all captured by the Black Wind clan and tortured to death here. Nangong Chen also had a serious expression on his face. He didn't say much and just walked straight ahead. Seeing this, Zhuing put away her reluctance and hurriedly followed. It didn't take long for them to reach the end of their ancestral land. In front of me was a stone wall. In the center of it, there was a gap that looked like a fountain emitting black mist. All the black mist was collected by a huge instrument and concentrated in one place, about several meters high. There were even many knife marks and sword prints left on the stone wall. Obviously, someone had tried to enlarge the gap before. Nangong Chen's eyes turned cold. He didn't expect that this was really the black fog he saw that day. The only difference is that there is no large-scale leak here, and the black fog is still wrapped in these intact instruments, just like a complete assembly line. He took a deep breath. In Head's memory, his Black Wind clan had discovered the abnormality of the black fog 100 years ago. At first, they only saw that after some of their tribesmen inhaled the mist, they all turned into monsters that were neither human nor ghost, with red eyes and extremely violent. They even spared no effort for their own tribesmen, which was very frightening. At first, they decided to seal the secret room forever and regard it as an ominous sign. But the good times did not last long. Due to the decline of talented people in the tribe and the decline of the wilderness competition, the previous tribe leader He Wuhuan, in order to seek change, actually set his sights on the black fog. Because he had seen with his own eyes that even though those people turned into monsters after inhaling the black fog, their strength increased dramatically, actually doubling. Then, he convened a meeting, secretly opened the secret room, and began experiments, trying to see if there was any way to extract the substance that could increase one's strength from the black fog and remove the impurities. At first, they only used some weak monsters for experiments, but soon they found that the monsters could not withstand this violent power, so they set their sights on living people. After a total of 50 years, they finally made some breakthroughs. They extracted the black source from the corpses of countless people by repeatedly purifying them with human bodies, which could enhance their strength. Compared with the black fog, the strength of the black source increases more slowly, and one drop of black source usually requires 1,000 living people. In order to break through to the saint level, He Wuhuan has used hundreds of drops of black source over the years. That is to say, there are nearly 100,000 people. Among these people, there are members of other families and cultivators who were deceived from the 3 states. They even discovered that the black source extracted by the monks deceived from the 3 states was stronger than that extracted by the people from the wilderness. Gradually, people became greedy, and almost all the tribesmen enjoyed the pleasure of increasing their strength brought by the black source. It wasn't long before the black source ran out. As the patriarch of the clan, Heidi went to the outside world and used resources to exchange for some black market traders to seek the population of the 3 states. Among these 100,000 people, the proportion of cultivators from the 3 states seemed to be higher than that of people from the wilderness. Because Black is not stupid, it is impossible for him to kill all the people in the wilderness, otherwise they will be discovered sooner or later. So he kidnaps a group of people at a time, and then kidnaps another group after a while. Finally, after 120 drops, he successfully broke through to the saint level, but he also turned into a monster that was neither human nor ghost, and was only awake for 2 hours a day. After seeing this, the tribesmen suddenly woke up. They didn't want to become that kind of monster. So, they decided to stop refining the black mist after absorbing the last batch of black source. At the same time, after experiencing the baptism of the black source, the strength of their clan has increased a lot, and they have begun to become ambitious and do not want to be limited to this world. Not long after, Hai became the patriarch of the clan. The first thing he did was to reform his father. He proposed to turn He Wuhuan into a monster completely and become the war machine of their He family. He should no longer be provided with the black source and should be allowed to directly absorb the black mist. When seeing this, Nangong Chen couldn't help but sigh that the other party was a filial son. Thanks to Hyde's efforts, He Wuhuan's strength also increased rapidly. In 100 years, he went from the late quasi-saint stage to the late saint stage. It can be said that it is enough to be the master in the wilderness. However, there is a disadvantage, which is that He Wuhuan is only awake for 1 stick of incense every day. Of course, the time it takes for a saint to stick an incense stick is enough to do a lot of things. Therefore, with his burning ambition, Black set his sights on this wilderness. He wanted to make a big move. He wanted to capture all the monks from the 3 states and use them to refine the black source. Not only did he want to kill the cultivators from the 3 states, he also wanted to take this opportunity to make the other 2 tribes surrender and seize the wilderness key from the Feather tribe. As for why they want to seize the key to the wilderness of the Feather clan, there are actually some reasons. That is, Head accidentally discovered that the scripture pieced together from the 3 keys of the wilderness actually had a restraining effect on the spiritual erosion of the black source. In other words, as long as they complete this task, they will be able to extract countless black sources and swallow them without any risk. This will be a huge improvement for their Blackwind clan. Who would have thought that the sudden appearance of Nangong Chen disrupted their plans, which is why Head took the opportunity to take action. You don't know until you see it, and you'll be shocked when you see it. Xiaoqi was actually knocked unconscious by these people without anyone noticing. Thinking of this, Nangong Chen couldn't help but look at the little snake that was still sleeping soundly on his shoulder, feeling speechless. He can even drug others because of his greed. There's no hope for him. Fortunately, it's not poison. It shouldn't matter if it's just poison. After all, the fire in Xiao Qi's stomach can be burned out in one go. Immediately, Nangong Chen briefly recounted the current situation. So, the most urgent task is to stop the spread of this black fog. Shura spoke. After hearing this, everyone looked troubled. How could they stop this? After all, if they were contaminated with even a little bit of this stuff, their lives would be in danger. But this thing has to stop. If it spreads over time, it will definitely pollute the entire wilderness. The leaders of the Wuling and Yu tribes were anxious and didn't know what to do. There was also a trace of sadness on Yu Qiong's mature and beautiful face. Having lived here for so long, she naturally did not want the wilderness to be polluted. And at this moment, that indifferent voice sounded again. I can try, Nangong Chen said calmly, looking at the bottomless hole in the stone wall. No, Shura and Zhuing said at the same time. Prince, you are a dragon. You must not be contaminated by even a trace of this strange black mist. Shura had just seen the changes in those people and knew how terrifying the black fog was, so he hurriedly tried to persuade them. Zhuing also spoke, her beautiful eyes tense. I've seen the layout on this stone wall. This black fog can penetrate the formation and corrode human skin. You must stay away from it, not get close at all. Even if the ancestor came, there would be no way to deal with this black fog. Originally, the people of the Wuling and Yu tribes were quite excited, but after hearing these words, they felt somewhat disappointed. Yes, they're from a powerful external force. Why should we take risks for them? Nangong Chen shook his head slightly, looked at Zhuing, and said calmly, That's because you're not good enough in learning. In the final analysis, it's just food. Then, facing the Wuling clan and the Yu clan, he spoke calmly. I have only one condition, and that is that all 4 of these wilderness keys belong to me. As long as you can satisfy this condition, I will agree to it. He saw that the key of the wilderness contained great fortune, which he must obtain. After these words were spoken, the pupils of the Wuling and Yu tribes shrank, and their faces became a little stiff. The other party actually wanted their wilderness key, which is their clan treasure. Chapter 4, 12 Two Ways. Single chapter, 6,000 words. I was doing a dynamic review yesterday, and couldn't change the chapters, so I finished it as soon as I got up today. For a moment, the people from the Wuling and Yu tribes were in a dilemma and hesitant. Although the key to the wilderness was said to be one of the fragments of the human emperor's reincarnation disk, according to ancient rumors, that was only in the past after all. Now, tens of millions of years have passed, and everything that should be studied about the key to the wilderness has been thoroughly studied. However, there's only the ancient method practiced by generations. Apart from that, it is just an ordinary fragment. The reason why they are reluctant to part with it is that this key to the wilderness is the clan treasure passed down from generation to generation, the symbol of every clan and the spiritual sustenance of every clan. But now, their family is about to be wiped out, and the entire wilderness is about to be wiped out. Under such circumstances, will they still hold on to the key to the wilderness? Lan Linchuan remained silent. Everyone was looking at him. Even Yu Qiong and the others were silent. They knew that Nangong Chen was invited by the Wuling clan to this wilderness competition, and that the other party was qualified to control the ownership of the wilderness key. Seeing this scene, Lan Mo stepped forward, patted Lan Linchuan lightly, and gave him a look. Lan Linchuan couldn't help but clench his fingers, but soon loosened them. He took a deep breath and said, I promise you. But, as soon as these words were spoken, everyone felt relieved and looked at each other, and they could see the joy in each other's eyes. Anyone with a discerning eye can see that compared to the key to the wilderness, which has been thoroughly studied, everyone's lives are more important. For them, this deal is definitely a sure win. After all, what the other party has to do is to control the black fog alone, and the degree of danger is far more terrifying than they imagined. What's more, the other party's identity is not simple in the outside world. Using the key of the wilderness to exchange for such a noble person to do such a deed, the price paid is far greater than they imagined. On the other side, Shura's side, he really hoped that the other party would reject Nangong Chen's conditions. But things are unpredictable, and the other party finally agreed. It seems that if there is danger later, we can only knock the prince unconscious and take him back. Nangong Chen's life is definitely more important than the entire wilderness. He saw this more clearly than anyone else, and he would never let Nangong Chen put himself in danger. Shura thought silently in his heart and looked at Nangong Chen beside him. But it's okay, Nangong Chen said calmly, his brows shining, and his mysterious temperament gave people a sense of affinity. In fact, no matter whether the other party gave him the key to the wilderness or not, he would seal the black fog. It's just that he really coveted the key to the wilderness. Otherwise, he would not have resorted to such a desperate measure. He is now missing only the last of the 3 human emperor's secret weapons, which is the human emperor's samsara disc. The fragment of the human emperor's samsara seal is the key to the wilderness. Although he is unable to restore the human emperor's reincarnation disc now, who can predict the future? Therefore, if the other party has some small conditions, it wouldn't be a big deal if he agreed to them. He has gained enough from this trip to the wilderness competition. Hearing this, Lan Linchuan said hesitantly, "It's not impossible to give you this wild key, but this wild key has had a rule since ancient times. That is, if outsiders want to cultivate the above sutras, they must first go to the human emperor's old land for baptism and gain the human emperor's approval. Otherwise, they will explode and die." After he finished speaking, Nangong Chen was stunned. How could such a thing actually happen? And he has to get the approval of the human emperor, otherwise he will explode and die. As soon as these words were spoken, Yu Qiong, Lan Ma, and the others seemed to recall what had happened and clapped their hands. "That's right, the clan leader is right, it really happened. I would have forgotten it if you hadn't told me." Then Lan Linchuan continued, his lips curled up slightly. "Of course, if you find it troublesome, there's another way that does not require the approval of the human emperor. That is for you to marry a woman from our Menghuang tribe and become a member of our Menghuang tribe. This way, if you cultivate the above sutras, you won't explode and die." In an instant, the entire ancestral land became quieter. The people of the Wuling tribe looked at Lan Linchuan with excitement on their faces. Yes, how could they forget that there is such a method? Fortunately, the patriarch remembered it. If the other party marries a woman from their Wuling tribe, it would be a huge profit for their Wuling tribe. On the other side, the Yu clan and others gritted their teeth. They didn't expect Lan Linchuan to be so cunning. They secretly said that he was shameless and actually used this incident to smuggle his own goods. Yu Qiong also frowned slightly and thought to herself that it was shameless. To be honest, if possible, she would also send a young woman from her tribe to marry this young man. After all, anyone with a discerning eye can see that the other party's identity is definitely not simple. If they can have a relationship with him, it will be a good thing for their feather clan. Shu'er on the side watched the scene leisurely, with a smile in his eyes, but did not speak to stop it. After all, the palace master had said that he supported the crown prince in being more lenient with people outside and adding fuel to the fire of their divine dynasty. Of course, if the prince showed mercy and left, he would be responsible for the aftermath and bring him back. He must not let the other party stay outside. After hearing this, Nangong Chen held his forehead slightly. Why did it feel less and less reliable? If I don't do anything, will I really explode and die? He looked at the key of the wilderness in his hand and said with some doubt, the other party wouldn't be deceiving him. Really, sir, I swear to the heavens that if I tell even one lie, I will be struck by lightning and die a miserable death. Seeing that he didn't believe it, Lan Linchuan became anxious and spoke quickly. Stop. But before he could finish his words, he was interrupted by Nangong Chen. His brows were calm, and his handsome face seemed to be thinking about something. In this case, I have to go to the old place of the human emperor. I don't know if I can get the approval of the human emperor. After all, he is not a descendant of the wild people. In the final analysis, I still feel a little uncertain. Otherwise, it is impossible for him to really marry a wild woman. Although the women here are all very pretty and charming, with an exotic temperament that is not found in the women of the 3 states, any one of them can be considered a beauty. But he is not a person who is obsessed with beauty. Not to mention, Suli had warned him not long ago. Thinking of this, Nangong Chen decisively rejected the second option. After I have dealt with this black fog, take me to the old place of the human emperor, Nangong Chen said lightly, with a tone that brooked no refusal. After these words were spoken, people from both the Wuling clan and the Yu clan became anxious. After all, this concerns the chance of soaring to success in the future. Lan Linchuan even pushed Lan Xin, who was watching the show, in front of him. Lan Xin was confused, and her bright eyes were full of question marks. Lan Xin? Before she could react, Lan Linchuan began to talk nonstop. My daughter is 25 years old this year, which is the right age for marriage, but unfortunately, she has high standards and has never found a lover. But just now, my little girl secretly told me that she is interested in you, sir. If possible, I hope you will consider me, even if it means you let her be your concubine. He knew that Nangong Chen would definitely not marry a woman from their Wuling tribe, so he was already very satisfied to have a status and a connection with the other party. Lan Xin was confused again. What did she say that? Then, her innocent face blushed slightly, and her eyelashes trembled slightly, like the afterglow of the setting sun, charming and charming, giving people a different kind of beauty. Deep down in her heart, she still had a good impression of such an outstanding man like Nangong Chen, not to mention that he was so handsome. It was the first time she saw such a handsome boy. After seeing this, Lan Mo and Lan Jia on the side almost raised their hands and said, I agree. They were extremely satisfied with Nangong Chen. Compared with the previous Heisheng, they were completely different. Nangong Chen raised his eyes, glanced at Lan Xian, then shook his head to refuse. Seeing the other person's expression, you can tell whether she said it or not. Even if she did, he has important things to do now and has no time for sentimental things. Of course, if you have more free time in the future, you can talk about your ideals in life. When Lan Xian saw this, she couldn't help but clench the hem of her skirt with her bare hands, and her beautiful eyes looked a little dim. As expected, the other party doesn't like me? That's right. After all, he also has a Taoist partner. How could someone of such a high status have any thoughts about a girl from the wilds like me? She laughed at herself in her heart and stepped back. Seeing this, Lan Linchuan didn't know how to comfort her. After all, it was he who pushed Lan Xian forward. On the other hand, the Feather Clan breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, Lan Linchuan's plan had succeeded. Yu Qiong watched this scene silently without much reaction, as if she had already expected it. After all, the disparity between their identities and status is too great. In this era, people value reality. At this moment, someone said, "Sir, what do you think of Chifu?" Chifu is fair-skinned and beautiful, the most beautiful woman in our wilderness. At such a young age, she is already a quasi-saint, and she is still unmarried. As soon as these words were spoken, the atmosphere instantly became much quieter. Yu Qiong was stunned. Her mature and beautiful face was stiff, and a blush appeared on her ears. She never thought that this could be related to her. Then, she turned her head away in embarrassment, trying to find out who had spoken just now. But after searching for a long time, she couldn't find out who it was. Seeing this, she couldn't help but look at Nangong Chen. Her charming red lips slightly opened, as if she wanted to explain something, but she didn't know where to start. Because of her unstable breathing, the white part of Yu Qiong's chest swayed slightly, revealing her exquisite curves. Her every move exuded a mature charm that was fascinating. After a while, she calmed down and said through gritted teeth, "Who said that?" After he finished speaking, no one responded. It seemed that everyone was busy with their own things. On the opposite side, from Nangong Chen's perspective, he just saw a hint of spring light and a hint of surging waves. He silently recited the Heart Sutra, and his expression returned to calm. Judging from the fact that he couldn't hold it up with one hand, he thought to himself that from a certain perspective, the other party was indeed the largest woman he had ever seen, followed by Su Li. However, what that person said just now made him a little interested in Yu Qiong. At such a young age, she is already a quasi-saint, and even the head of a clan. Moreover, judging from the attitude of her clansmen towards her, it could be judged that this woman is definitely not as simple as she looks. On the other side, Yu Qiong snorted coldly when she saw no one answered. She would never give up and had to know who it was. Then, she looked at Nangong Chen, a trace of apology on her face. "Sir, I'm sorry to have embarrassed you." "No problem." Nangong Chen shook his head, indicating that he didn't care, and then turned and walked straight towards the stone wall. Now that we're done with small talk, it's time to take action. Zhu Ying hurriedly followed. She wanted to help Nangong Chen. The snow-covered mountain sways as it stands in front of the green mountain and stone cliffs. Zhu Ying respectfully handed the formation flag, stained with Qilin's blood, to Nangong Chen. Then, she stepped aside, her beautiful eyes flashing with luster as she watched quietly, but her hands couldn't help but clenched. Not far away, countless pairs of eyes were staring at Nangong Chen, feeling extremely nervous. You know, if by some accident the other party is contaminated by trace of black mist, they will be guilty. Nangong Chen had a calm expression. His eyes were dim, and his aura was ethereal, as if he were a true immortal descended to the world, exuding a nobleness that was out of this world. He looked at the wind tunnel in front of him that was continuously spewing out black mist, his eyes flashing, and he already had an idea in his mind. Soon, the white robe waved, and 4 formation flags suddenly burst out and inserted into the 4 corners of the wind tunnel. In an instant, the wind was so strong that it was almost impossible for everyone to open their eyes. Nangong Chen's black hair flew, and his 5 fingers suddenly clenched. "Rise!" The thin lips, as sharp as a knife, moved. The next moment, the 4 formation flags emitted a scarlet light almost at the same time, and a strange phenomenon appeared. What everyone saw was a green mythical beast standing on the void, with 2 majestic horns and overflowing majesty, carrying the power to suppress the universe. That was the royal species with the purest bloodline among the Qilin. Under the green light, countless white threads flew out like needles and threads, unraveling and wrapping up the wind tunnel. The black fog had nowhere to hide and was forced behind him, moving at a very fast speed, as if an evil spirit had seen the Buddha's light. A shrill scream suddenly rang out, shaking the place. And before long, everything returned to calm. In front of the green mountain and stone wall, the green shadow also shrank into it. leaving only the 4 formation flags. After seeing this scene, everyone's pupils suddenly shrank and their hearts were filled with shock. Is this all right? From the time the other party made the move to the end, it only took the time of an incense stick. Not far ahead, the girl in a black and gold phoenix tail skirt was also in great shock, her beautiful eyes dazed. There are people in the world who can use the ditch so skillfully, as if they are the darlings of heaven and earth. Coincidentally, Su Rue, who had just been awakened by a member of the Yu family, fainted again with a plop after watching the whole process. It is conceivable how shocked this elder of the Tianjin Holy Land was. After finishing the arrangement, a trace of fatigue flashed across Nangong Chen's brow. The Qilin Demon Sealing Formation was an improved formation he had developed from the formation chart in the Holy Land of Heavenly Formations. Even in the entire 9 heavens and 10 realms, it was considered one of the most powerful sealing formations, with masculine brilliance and immense power. Similarly, this formation requires extremely high mental strength. Only a formation of this level can seal the black fog. If someone else came here today, they would most likely return empty-handed. It just so happened that the Human Emperor Heart Sutra that Nangong Chen practiced greatly expanded his mental power, which was enough to support today's formation. Master, are you okay? Zhu Ying stepped forward, stretched out her arm, and gently supported Nangong Chen. In an instant, the pleasant scent of jasmine filled Nangong Chen's nostrils. Shura, who was standing by, also had worry in his eyes, but when he saw Zhu Ying moving forward, he did not go over. How about we take a day off and go to the old place of the Human Emperor tomorrow? At this moment, Na Lan Mo spoke very tactfully and in a respectful tone. Behind him, even Lan Xian and Yu Qiong were staring at Nangong Chen intently. No problem, just leave immediately. Nangong Chen shook his head and said softly. After saying this, Lan Mo hesitated, not knowing what to do. Just do as he says. Zhu Ying also spoke. She knew Nangong Chen's character and would not tolerate rejection. At the same time, in the outside world, as the cultivators from the 3 states who came to the wilderness competition left one after another, the news of the person with double pupils winning the championship spread like wildfire throughout the Xiantian domain. All of a sudden, the entire Xiantian territory was in an uproar, as if a depth charge had been dropped. Did I hear correctly? That person with double pupils is not dead? He even won the championship in the wilderness competition. Yeah, isn't it said that people with double pupils suffer from terminal illnesses and live in seclusion in the Tianyuan divine dynasty for their entire lives? Damn it, who is spreading rumors? So, doesn't that mean that the person with double pupils not only hasn't suffered any illness, but is even stronger than before? Oh my god, everyone couldn't help but think of the rumors that were spread in Xiantian domain before the person with double pupils was born, but the moment they knew the truth, everyone was shocked for Nangong Chen. Then, some people became curious about how the person with double pupils participated in the wilderness competition. But what makes me curious is how did that person with double pupils win the championship? I remember that before the wilderness competition started, he wasn't even on the list of foreign players. Yes, how did he participate? Did he bribe someone? Oh, you guys really have a bad memory. Have you forgotten that there's another family in the Wild family that hasn't announced any foreign aid yet? Hey, you mentioned a family, something called the Wuling clan. Yes, it's them. This time, the people with double pupils will serve as their external aid to participate in the wilderness competition. This Wuling tribe is not simple. They can actually hire people with double pupils as external aid. It's really awesome. Some people shook their heads. They were not too shocked by this. Instead, they were curious about how the person with double pupils could win the championship as a genius. That's fine. What I'm most curious about is how that person with double pupils won the championship. Isn't there Xiang Kunlun, the #1 person under the saint, and Yang Zhen, the youngest elder in history? According to a friend of mine, even Xiang Kunlun and Yang Zhen working together are no match for that person with double pupils. Oh my god, the one with double pupils was only a divine king, as far as I remember. Could it be that he has broken through to become a quasi-saint? No, he used the divine king realm to fight against those 2 people and even killed them. When they learned that the man with double pupils had also killed Xiang Kunlun and Yang Zhen, everyone couldn't help but frown and felt extremely confused. Kill him? Is it necessary to be so cruel? It's just a wild competition. Yeah, it's just a wild competition. There's no need to be so cruel. But Xiang Kunlun and Yang Zhen were fighting 2 against 1, and even resorted to lethal tactics during the battle, hoping to take the life of the man with double pupils. The one with double pupils had no choice but to fight back and kill the 2. When they figured out the reason, they were furious and expressed their understanding for people with double pupils. I see. I thought a warrior of this caliber would be noble at heart, but I never imagined they could be so vile. Not only do they fight 2 against 1, but they even kill their own juniors. Don't these two know that those with double pupils are the most outstanding geniuses in Xiantian territory? They are such bastards, they deserve to die. We should make the Yuxiao Sword Sect and the Wanfa Thunder Sect give us an explanation on how they cultivated such people and how they could be so cruel as to attack the younger generation's geniuses. There were also some strong men of the older generation who were indignant about this and threatened to go to the two sects to demand an explanation. Then, someone finished telling the story of what happened last. This isn't over yet. After we kill those two, guess what? The one with the double pupils will challenge the formation of Su Rue, the elder of the Holy Land of Heavenly Formations. The two will compete in the speed of breaking the formation. Oh my god, I heard that person with double pupils is a demon of formation? Isn't Elder Su Rue going to be in big trouble? Yes, Elder Su Rue did lose in the end. The one with double pupils broke his formation in just one breath. One breath, oh my god, it's so terrifying. Some people admire the talent of those with double pupils in formation. The man continued. Even before we left, he still woke up from the formation set up by the double pupil person. After hearing this, everyone's eyes flashed with shock, lamenting that the gap between the other party and the person with double pupils was too huge. But the most exciting part is now. After the one with double pupils won the championship, the people from the Blackwind clan were not convinced. They set an ambush and sent out a saint-level ancestor to kill the one with double pupils. They even surrounded us who came to watch the fight. It seems they didn't even want to let us go. Someone revealed a shocking piece of information. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone's pupil shrank. A saint-level ancestor kills someone with double pupils? Do you want to kill all the monks from the 3 states who come here? What happened next? How did you survive? Someone couldn't wait to ask. After all, the other party appeared in front of him alive, so he thought that everything must be fine. It all depends on the person with double pupils. He was in a deadly situation, but when the guardian Shura behind him arrived, he immediately started a killing spree. The difference in strength was too great, and those people were blown to pieces on the spot. Ashura? When I saw him that day in the sky above Chu City, his strength was terrifying. I never thought that the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty would send him as the protector of those with double pupils. That's a living saint king. If anyone wants to touch someone with double pupils in the future, they'll probably have to think twice. Everyone sighed at how much importance the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty attached to people with double pupils, which was simply unimaginable for ordinary people. Chapter 413, Brother Nangong. You are not a human being. At the same time, in central China, many major forces and top sects have gradually received the ins and outs of the wilderness competition. When they learned that Nangong Chen did not suffer any harm from the battle with the Blood God cult, and even became more brave and killed 2 peak quasi-saints, everyone was shocked. Nangong Chen's progress was so fast that his brilliance had begun to stand out among the older generation, forcing all the major forces to take him seriously. Even some old monsters who kept a low profile began to pay attention to Nangong Chen. The Divine King went against 2 peak quasi-saints, Xiang Kunlun, who is known as the #1 person under the saint, and Yang Zhen of the Wanfa Thunder Sect. Oh my god, what a terrifying fighting power. It won't be long before this boy catches up with us. By then, he will be the best in the world and will be invincible for an entire era. The 9 Stars appearance is indeed terrifying. Yes, this speed of progress is something I've never seen even after living for tens of thousands of years. I'm afraid only the geniuses of the upper realms can compete with it. It's a pity for the younger generation like me. We are from the same era as such people, but we can only look up to them and can't even think of catching up. Many saints express their feelings. They informed the disciples of the forces behind them about this matter and asked them not to provoke the other party in the future, let alone become enemies with the other party. Now the people with double pupils have become the dominant force, and the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty behind them is also at its peak in the entire Xiantian realm. This era is destined to belong only to their glory. They knew very well that the trend was unstoppable and could not be contained by people like them. The only thing they could do was to stand firm in this wave. Soon, all the talented children in the world, whether they were from the Holy Land or the top families, gradually learned that the person with double pupils had won the championship in the wilderness competition. Their minds went blank. They were in great shock and remained speechless for a long time. Some time ago, when they learned that the person with double pupils had not appeared in the world for a long time and was suspected to be recuperating in the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty, they secretly rejoiced and breathed a sigh of relief. After all, the pressure put on them by those with double pupils was so great that it almost made them breathless. They even thought that this period of time would be their chance. If they tried their best, they might be able to narrow the gap with the other side or catch up with the people with double pupils. But who would have thought that this was just the calm before the storm and the opponent was not injured? He even participated in the wilderness competition, killed 2 of the best quasi-saints, and won the championship. At this moment, a feeling of powerlessness and despair arose from the bottom of my heart. The gap between them and each other is really getting bigger and bigger. The oppression almost suffocated them. The immortal Li family. Inside the hall, Bai Wudao and Li Songhai were drinking tea. Just now, the 2 of them learned that the man with double pupils won the championship in the wilderness competition, and they were still a little shocked. Didn't you just say that he was invited by the Tianyuan divine dynasty some time ago? So, is there really some underlying illness with that person with double pupils? He's still so fierce and powerful, killing 2 quasi-saints alone. Li Songhai asked hurriedly, with a look of disbelief in his eyes. Only after he woke up from serious injuries in Chu City that day did he realize that it was the person with double pupils who saved them. When he heard his grandson's account of the other party's deeds, he was still a little skeptical and thought it was a bit exaggerated. But now, he completely believed it. Bai Wudao took a sip of tea, shook his head, and said, I promised the Tianyuan divine dynasty that I can't reveal too much. I can only tell you that the person with double pupils should have awakened recently. Li Songhai nodded slightly, realizing that he had lost his composure. So he stopped asking questions and continued to think. He just woke up recently, so the rumors in Xintian territory that he was in a coma these days are not false. However, he had just woken up and had already done such a shocking thing. The Tianyuan divine dynasty was really bold enough to let the person with double pupils go, and they were not afraid of any accidents. Because he was saved by Nangong Chen, and because the other party had helped his grandson to take revenge in the immortal treasure before, he was quite appreciative and concerned about the other party. Soon, Li Songhai called Li Qixin and Li Muxiu and told them about this matter. What? Brother Nangong woke up? He even participated in the wilderness competition and won the championship? When the 2 learned about it, their pupils shrank slightly and they were a little bit disbelieving. In their minds, the wilderness competition has been a holy place for the powerful to discuss the Tao since ancient times, and they have never heard of any young genius participating in it. Because it is simply impossible. The noble families in the wilderness are not blind. How could they ask a genius to compete with these quasi-saints? It is simply a fantasy. They are not on the same level. However, now, they heard that there was a genius of the same generation who not only participated in the wilderness competition, but also won the championship. The key point is that this person was the one with double pupils that they were familiar with. For a moment, the 2 looked at each other, and the anger did not ease for a long time. Brother Nangong's strength has actually become so terrifying. This also completely dispelled the idea of Li Qixin and others to catch up with each other. As long as the other party is still alive, he will be a mountain that all geniuses cannot cross. Both of them had complicated expressions, and a hint of bitterness appeared at the corners of their mouths. Brother Nangong, you are not a human. Li Qixin sighed, then smiled, feeling relieved. But fortunately, it looks like Brother Nangong is fine and has no underlying illness. This is also a good thing. Li Muxiu on the side also nodded, feeling genuinely happy that the other person was fine. The 2 of them couldn't even practice well these days, and were depressed, fearing that the other would get sick because of them. But now, these concerns can finally be dispelled, and they can concentrate on practicing. Li Songhai was very pleased to see that the 2 did not feel inferior because of the monster with double pupils, but instead ignited their fighting spirit. Bai Wudao also nodded slightly, thinking that the Li family twins were indeed worthy of their reputation. If there were no one with double pupils in this world, and the Ice Phoenix Goddess and this evil couple appeared, I'm afraid the other party would be the best in the world. Whether his character, strength, or talent, they're all at the best, but unfortunately there are not so many ifs in life. The genius of this world is destined to become an immortal, and he will definitely see that person's invincible glory. Bai Wudao shook his head, feeling a little emotional. Soon, Li Songhai spoke in a leisurely tone. Indeed, the fact that you have such a mindset is something that many geniuses cannot even begin to reach. The path of cultivation is a long-distance race. It's not about who starts faster, but who can persevere and run further. In half a year, it will be the Immortal Questioning Conference. By then, many powerful forces from the upper realm will send people down to recruit disciples. What you need to do is to practice hard, stand out at the Immortal Questioning Conference, and be noticed by those from the upper realm. Of course, in the past few months, the various hidden geniuses in the extreme south, or the ancient dormant monsters, are gradually emerging. The first thing they do when they emerge is to use you to establish their authority. I hope that by then, you can withstand the blow and keep a calm mind. When these words came out, Li Qixin frowned and asked in a deep voice, "Are those people very strong?" Li Songhai smiled and sighed, his eyes flashing with reminiscence. More than just strong, These people in the past would have been invincible and suppressed an entire era. What about those with double pupils? Li Muxiu became interested and spoke out. Li Qixin also looked over curiously. They knew their grandfather's temperament best. He rarely gave such high evaluation to the younger generation. If he did, the other person's talent must be terrifying to the extreme. If the person with double pupils is given more time, he might be able to compete with the other party, but from what I see now, there's still a big gap. Li Canghai shook his head and said in a deep voice. Li Muxiu and Li Qixin's minds suddenly went blank. In their minds, those with double pupils are already invincible, but they did not expect that the geniuses from those hidden families are even more terrifying. Inside the Qilin Gate, the old sect leader also learned the news that the man with double pupils won the championship in the wild competition. His throat became a little dry, his mind was in a trance, and he remained silent for a long time. Surprisingly, after this battle, the opponent is no longer the prodigy who needs protection from others, but has become a real, strong man. If the achievements in the immortal treasures are too far away for the world and not enough to make the older generation feel anxious, then this battle in the wilderness competition is a real achievement. It is enough to make all the quasi-saints and god-kings in the world panic. In this era, there are already geniuses who can reach their level. He called Chao Li and told him about this. After hearing this, Chao Li's expression changed slightly, and then turned into a look of deep joy. He was evidently genuinely delighted at the terrifying prowess of his friend. Brother Nangong has become so strong. The old sect leader saw all of this, shook his head, and said, "The immortal questioning conference is approaching. If you go to the upper realm and have no one to rely on, you can follow this person. He is trustworthy. This child is good in every way except that he is too innocent, too simple, and too sincere. In this deceitful world, he is the easiest to be bullied." He was very worried that Chao Li would be bullied in the upper realm. Of course, if he could follow that person, he would be relieved, but he didn't know whether the other party would look down on him. Chao Li bowed and nodded. He remembered everything the old master said in his heart. But soon he seemed to have thought of something, clenched his fists, his eyes blazing, and said excitedly, "The Immortals Conference. If those hidden geniuses were to emerge, I would definitely defeat them to pieces. Let's see if they dare to use us to establish their authority." You. The old sect leader was at a loss whether to laugh or cry. Chapter 414. Immortals are destined to be in different worlds. Chu City, Chu family. A lot of time has passed since the battle with the Blood God cult. After that, the Chu family soon discovered Chu Ruchuan and others dead in the ancestral land. They were immediately furious and instantly understood why the 7-star formation was broken. It turned out that someone had acted in secret. However, they soon discovered what Chu Ruchuan and Fun Dao were doing in her house. Only then did they realize that it was Chu Ruchuan who had lured the thieves into the Chu family. Chu Shanhao was furious and ordered the abolition of all the elders of Chu Ruchuan's lineage. They were directly exiled from the main clan to the side clans. From then on, they were not allowed to set foot in the main clan. This also made Chu Yan's family very happy. So far, under Chu Yan's leadership, the entire Chu family has not only made up for the losses caused that day, but has even shown a thriving trend. Chu Yan, the daughter of the clan leader, broke through to the Divine King realm after returning from her training in Xinzhou. She has already shown the potential to be the next clan leader in the entire Chu family. This made the people of the Chu family treat her with great respect, and Chu Yan's status in the Chu family also rose day by day. At this moment within the clan, Chu Yan was sitting in her attic, currently handling important matters of the clan. Although we haven't seen each other for a long time, Chu Yan's appearance is still as bright and charming as ever, with a heroic look in her beautiful eyes, giving people a unique charm. But soon, with a cry of surprise, the entire Chu family was shocked. A person with double pupils has been born, and he has won the championship of the wilderness competition. After hearing those familiar 3 words, Chu Yan's delicate body couldn't help but tremble slightly, and her beautiful eyes suddenly lit up. Soon, the Chu family members gathered in the lobby and learned the whole story. I knew that the person with double pupils would be fine. Chu Xing was very excited and clenched his fists. The Chu family members were all silent, their eyes filled with horror. It was hard to imagine that the person with double pupils who fought against Prince Ao Long in Chu City that day had now grown to the point where he could fight against 2 quasi-saints. Chu Yan also felt relieved, and her beautiful eyes lit up with a strange light. However, when she heard that Zhu Ying was traveling with the person with double pupils, her face stiffened a little. She had not forgotten the scene in the Immortal Treasure that day when the ancestor asked the other party to marry her, but was directly rejected by the other party. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but pursed her lips. After hearing this, Chu Shanhao was also a little shocked, but soon he shook his head and said, Although that person with double pupils is a genius, our Chu family's genius is no less talented. Moreover, in this immortal treasure trove, Yenner lived up to everyone's expectations and took away the Chu Zhu Ling, bringing hope to our Chu family. Who is Chu Zhu? He is an immortal. With his inheritance, it won't be long before our Chu family will become the overlord of Xiantian territory. He was full of heroic spirit and seemed to have already seen the day when the Chu family would be famous throughout the 3 states. After hearing this, the others nodded, their eyes lighting up. Yes, although the one with double pupils is strong, we're not bad either. You know, among the immortal treasures this time, the one who gained the most should be their Chu family, who got the Chu Zuling. The inheritance inside is enough for the Chu family to achieve greater glory in the future. Thinking of this, someone praised Chu Yin, thanks to Saint Chu. If it weren't for her, I'm afraid Chu Zuling's whereabouts would still be unknown. Yes, it just so happens that it wasn't obtained by the heir of another power, so Saint Chu doesn't have to marry anyone else. An elder of the tribe agreed with a smile. They have not forgotten the conditions they had offered to those geniuses who had allowed them to enter the immortal treasure. Fortunately, the Chu Zuling was finally obtained by their own people, which was undoubtedly a blessing. Chu Xing looked at his sister with some suspicion. When did his sister become so lucky? She hadn't gotten something for thousands of years, but she actually got it. On the other side, Chu Yin took a deep breath, her beautiful eyes flashing, and with a hint of determination, she spoke. It wasn't me who got the Chu Zhu Ling, but someone else. When these words were spoken, everyone looked a little shocked. If it wasn't Chu Yin, then who could it be? Oh, which brat is this, to be so lucky as to get the Chu Zhu Ling? If possible, it might be possible to form a marriage. A hint of surprise flashed across Chu Shana's eyes, and then he smiled and looked at Chu Yin. Those with double pupils. Chu Yin gritted her teeth and spoke. If it weren't for him, let alone Chu Zuling, I would have died in the immortal treasure. As soon as these words were spoken, the clan instantly became much quieter. Everyone knew that their clan leader had always been pessimistic about people with double pupils. It's actually him. Chu Shanhe suppressed the shock in his heart and pretended to be calm. Since he knew the conditions I mentioned at the time, why didn't he take the initiative to come to our Chu family? Could it be that he looked down on us? He said at that time that if he could get it, he would be eligible to marry into the family. Oh, Chu Yin sneered. With what status did the other party have? How could he possibly marry into their Chu family? It was simply ridiculous. Others also looked at Chu Shanhe with strange eyes. Forget it. Since he doesn't mention it, let's just call it a day. Chu Shanhe faced their gazes without blushing or beating his heart. Though those with double pupils possess the talent of 9 stars and are making rapid progress, they have made many enemies. Whether they can succeed in the future remains an unknown. What's more, from what I understand, apart from the venerable behind Prince Aolong whom he provoked that day, someone from the Hidden Jun family has recently emerged and is looking for the one with double pupils. It seems there's a lot of grudge between them. After he finished speaking, everyone's expression changed slightly. Even Chu Yan's beautiful eyes were startled. The Jun family, one of the hidden families, is a family that the entire Xiantian domain fears. If the current overlord is the Tianyuan divine dynasty, then the hidden families throughout history are regarded as the real overlords behind every era. Every 100 years, the genius that appears can suppress an era, making it almost impossible for all the young generations in Xiantian domain to breathe. This also indirectly proves the terrifying background of the hidden family. They have no idea about the hidden family, but it is often this unknown that is the most terrifying. Chu Shanhe's words seemed to be addressed to everyone, but in fact, the only person he was warning was Chu Yin. He wanted to cut off the other party's last thoughts and devote himself to the Tao from now on. Chu Shanhe smiled and continued. As for whether it's true or not, I don't know. I just heard about it. The struggle between the double-pupiled person and that hidden family will soon become a hot topic in Xiantian territory. But this has nothing to do with us. The Chu Zhu Ling contains the opportunity to become an immortal. Yenner, what you need to do is to practice hard. In a few months, you will make a big splash at the Immortal Questioning Conference. Those who become immortals are destined to be from a different world from others. As soon as these words were spoken, many geniuses in the clan were excited, and even the strong ones in the clan felt that the future would definitely belong to their Chu family. Only Chu Yin remained silent after hearing this. On the other hand, the old friends of Xinzong also reacted greatly. In Tianbao Pavilion, Lu Dazhu was shocked and then immediately sent people to deliver a lot of good things and headed straight to Shunqiao to offer them to Nangong Chen. He had a premonition that the entire Xiantian domain would soon undergo drastic changes, and the only way to gain a firm foothold was to cling tightly to the powerful. In Howren Pavilion, with Yu Russian's return, there was a commotion, and all the elders were sighing at Elder Xiong's vision in the past. Xionda was also happy that Nangong Chen was free, and he made up his mind to practice hard and seize the day to repay him. In the Wang family of Chucheng, after Wang Teng learned about it, he appeared calm on the surface, but his heart was already in turmoil. He also made up his mind to practice hard and try not to be left too far behind by the opponent. As for Xi Ming from the Holy Land of Astronomy, after hearing the news about the person with double pupils from the Holy Land, Xi Ming rushed out of seclusion to find out. On the way, the disciples of the Holy Land were dumbfounded. They had never seen their own saint girl so attentive to a man. When Xi Ming learned that Nangong Chen was not only fine, but also won the championship in the Monghuan competition, she was even more excited and her beautiful eyes shone brightly. Before this, everyone saw that the saint had been depressed and unhappy since she returned from the battle with the Blood God cult that day. But now she is so happy because of the news about the person with double pupils. Seeing this scene, many disciples were secretly heartbroken, shouting in their hearts, "I will never coexist with those with double pupils." Soon, many forces reacted and sent congratulations to the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty to celebrate the crown prince of the Divine Dynasty winning the championship of the wilderness competition. Among them, the Li family, Howren Pavilion, Tianbao Pavilion, Chucheng Wang family, Tianjin Holy Land, Tianwen Holy Land, Tianjin Holy Land, and Qilin were particularly enthusiastic. They also expressed strong dissatisfaction with the two first-rate sects, Yuxiao Sword Sect and Wanfa Thunder Sect, and sent people to question how they cultivated the sect's strong men. After all, at this critical juncture, the person with double pupils, as the only one with 9-star qualifications in their Xintian domain, is highly expected and valued. But it is hard to understand that only the strong men from your two forces would kill a junior with such good talent, in such a way, using various deadly moves. Not long after, unexpectedly, a strong man from the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty came and killed all the strong men in the sect, and then gave the remaining disciples two choices: either disband the sect on the spot, or destroy it, and leave everyone here. The remaining disciples of Yuxiao Sword Sect and Wanfa Lei Sect were not fools either. They immediately chose the former. After all, why choose to die when they could live? After a few hours, the news of the dissolution of the two first-class sects, Yuxiao Sword Sect and Wanfa Thunder Sect, had spread throughout the entire Xintian realm. This made all the major forces feel terrified by the tyranny of the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty and shocked by the ruthlessness of the other side's actions. Afterwards, all the major sects did not hesitate to warn their younger disciples once again not to provoke the person with double pupils. They did not want a day when their entire sect will be slapped to death by that person. Chapter 415. An unexpected event occurred in the old land of the Emperor. Wilderness, the old land of the human Emperor. A huge, ancient statue stands in the weeds. The sculptured figure wears a crown, has majestic dragon eyes, and is surrounded by dragon energy. He is dressed in an imperial robe and exudes tremendous pressure with every move he makes. Nangong Chen raised his eyes slightly and looked around involuntarily. Even though this was just a statue of the human emperor cast in the lower realm, the overwhelming imperial power still made people feel palpitations. Nangong Chen cultivated the human emperor's heart sutra and had imperial energy in his body, so he was not afraid of such pressure. But it was different for the wild people nearby. After arriving here, they also came forward with great fear and trepidation to perform the ritual of kneeling and worshipping. Zhu Ying's face turned even paler. She didn't dare to look directly at the statue and felt faint for a moment. As for Shura, he had been hiding somewhere long ago and had not shown up. Seeing this, Nangong Chen reached out and patted Zhu Ying's shoulders, silently transferring a wisp of imperial energy into her body. In an instant, Zhu Ying's strong feeling of fainting disappeared, and her creamy skin gradually regained its color. Her beautiful eyes were filled with gratitude as she looked at Nangong Chen. Soon, after Lan Linchuan recited a string of incomprehensible spells, he spoke to Nangong Chen. "Sir, the ceremony is ready. You may come forward and be baptized." "What should I do?" Nangong Chen's brows were calm as he spoke. After hearing this, Lan Linchuan thought for a while and then said slowly, "Take out the 4 wilderness keys, drip a drop of your blood into the statue, and then worship sincerely. If the human emperor appears, the statue will emit light. Then you will be recognized by the human emperor." The words fell. A look of realization flashed across Nangong Chen's eyes, and he paced forward, his white clothes fluttering, exuding an ethereal aura, under the gaze of everyone. For keys to the wilderness appeared in his palm, and then the sword energy slid down and a drop of golden blood fell. At this moment, the ancient statue seemed to wake up, and it actually emitted a terrifying Taoist pattern that swept around. But soon, the Dao pattern disappeared. When everyone saw this, a strange look flashed in their eyes. Obviously, they felt the sudden change. The baptism is still in progress. Nangong Chen closed his eyes and did not perform the ritual of kneeling down. He simply bowed, his heart as clear as a mirror. The reason is simple. No one in the world can make him kneel down, even if the other person is the human emperor. And just as he bent down, a strange vision suddenly occurred. Suddenly, a five-colored divine light burst out from the statue, as if it had come alive, and the entire surroundings were shaking. Then, a red vortex appeared in the void, and an invisible giant eye emerged from it. The eye was very pale, with a hint of blood red in the pupil, which was obscured by chaos, and only the blood light could be vaguely seen. But just like that, the terrifying pressure that seemed like the decree of heaven erupted from the sky. Everyone was almost suffocated, especially when those eyes looked at them. They felt endless coldness in their hearts. It was as if the other party could wipe them out on the spot with just a thought. This was the closest they had ever been to death. Almost everyone present was so frightened that they were speechless. In the face of this divine power, not even a thought of resistance could arise. "You remnant of the old clan, you deserve to die." A voice without any emotion suddenly sounded, like thunder from the blue sky, echoing in everyone's ears. Everyone looked over and saw that the terrifying bloodshot eyes were staring straight at one person in the crowd. That person is Nangong Chen. Nangong Chen seemed calm, but in fact his heart was already in turmoil, and his whole body was wrapped in a chilling, murderous intent. Under that kind of pressure, if he hadn't been wearing the sect leader's robe, his flesh and blood would have been squeezed into a blur. Not good. Zhu Ying's beautiful eyes narrowed, and she spoke in a trembling voice. The next moment, a huge bloody hand stretched out from the gray sky, and the terrible murderous intent instantly filled the entire area. The direction of the bloody hand was towards Nangong Chen. Everyone's mind went blank, and a feeling of powerlessness surged in their hearts. They could only watch the bloody hand fall. Nangong Chen was unable to move. Under this murderous intent, everything seemed to stand still, and he couldn't even take out the human emperor's sword. He couldn't help but clench his fingers, his eyes cold. He didn't know why the other party called him a remnant of the old clan, but he had no hatred or grudge against him. But he attacked him and wanted to kill him. He remembered it completely. "Just wait for me. As long as he is not dead in the future, even if the other party escapes to the far corners of the world, he will definitely kill him." And at this critical moment, the mighty imperial power burst out from the statue. "Jiqian, you are not worthy enough to touch my people." A domineering and cold shout rang out, like a huge bell, echoing throughout the world. The next moment, a figure walked out of the statue, walking like a dragon and a tiger, with an astonishing momentum. Just standing there, the imperial dragon energy surged into the sky, and the sky was filled with dark yellow stars. That majestic being stretched out his hand, and the four keys of the wilderness in Nangong Chen's hand suddenly merged into one, turning into an ancient token. On the token, the word reincarnation was clearly engraved. "Down!" The majestic figure uttered a word, his eyes flashing like cold lightning. In the chaos, the blood-red eye saw it, and its pupils shrank, as if it had seen some terrifying existence, and it planned to retreat. But it's too late. In an instant, divine power erupted from the human emperor's samsara seal, and the bloody giant hand was destroyed inch by inch under the power of samsara. Even though that blood-red eye wanted to escape, it was still trapped in place and could only watch itself being destroyed in panic. Not long after, the sky cleared and everything returned to its original state, as if nothing had happened. After watching it, everyone couldn't help but be shocked as they looked at the tall figure. If they guessed correctly, the figure controlling the human emperor's reincarnation seal was none other than the legendary human emperor. At this moment, everyone in the wilderness didn't dare to blink. Their eyes were extremely fiery, and they were almost kneeling down to worship. Nangong Chen's pupils flickered as he looked at the tall figure. At the same time, the other party was also looking at him. The human emperor's eyes were as bright as torches, seemingly able to see through the flesh and see the human emperor's sword, the human emperor heart sutra, and the terrifying bloodline of the young man. After a long while, the human emperor spoke with a hint of appreciation. "You're pretty good." Nangong Chen bowed, and after coming to his senses, he immediately said, "Thank you for saving me, Senior." The human emperor nodded slightly, and then slowly released the human emperor reincarnation seal in his hand. Not long after, it fell into Nangong Chen's hand. After seeing this, Nangong Chen felt a little puzzled. This originally belonged to the other party, but he didn't want it and instead gave it back to him. Others were also watching this scene and were extremely shocked. I rest assured in you. The three supremes of a human emperor are in your hands and will surely flourish. If you ever go to the upper realm in the future, you can seek out the human immortal sect and show them the three supremes of the human emperor. If anything happens, they will protect you. Of course, if any old monster wants to attack you, you can tell them that you are the heir of this emperor. I believe they will think twice. The human emperor spoke slowly, his tone filled with absolute confidence. Nangong Chen was a little surprised. He didn't expect the other party to be so easy to talk to. Not only did he take the other party's human emperor reincarnation seal, he even found a way out for him to the upper realm. He even took advantage of it and became the other party's successor without any clear reason. And judging from the other party's appearance, it seems that the title of successor to the human emperor is quite useful in the upper realm. At this time, Nangong Chen didn't know that once the words successor of the human emperor were uttered in the future, many people from the powerful forces in the upper realm would be terrified. Of course, if you grow up in the future and feel grateful, you can help me take care of that immortal sect. They have been looking for me for a long time. The human emperor seemed to have thought of something, with a look of reminiscence on his face as he explained something, while his body gradually became ethereal, as if a bright lamp was about to go out. As for the person who just attacked you, forget about him for now. Don't mention him. If you do, he will feel it. You can only seek revenge when you are strong enough in the future. He gave Nangong Chen some advice. Nangong Chen nodded seriously, memorizing every word the other party said. The immortal cult of the upper realm. If he could truly protect the other party in the future, he would certainly not be ungrateful. As for the person who just took action, if he heard correctly, his name seemed to be Tianyuan. He was not unfamiliar with the name Tianyuan. He had known him before in the Immortal Treasure. The other party seemed to be at odds with the Xianxian sect, so much so that the sect leader had cursed him. Nangong Chen couldn't help but narrow his eyes slightly, with a cold light flashing in them. Tianyuan, he believed that it wouldn't be long before he could chop off the other party's head. In the void, the figure of the human emperor was about to dissipate. Before leaving, he looked at the people in the wilderness and said softly, "Thank you for your hard work over the years." As soon as he finished speaking, the figure of the human emperor disappeared completely. After hearing this, Lan Linchuan, Lan Mo, Yu Qiong, and others remained silent for a long time, and mist seemed to rise in their eyes. The older generation was even more tearful, with red eyes. Since they were born, they were told by their elders that they must protect the wilderness from generation to generation, because this is the old land of the human emperor. At first they didn't understand, thinking that this wilderness was poor and desolate, and far less prosperous than the outside world, so they asked the elders of the tribe why they didn't go to the outside world. At that time, their elders would often smile and say nothing. Later, they gradually realized that this was their mission, a mission they should have adhered to since they were born. Their ancestors once followed the human emperor and fought in all directions. Chapter 416, The Heir of the Human Emperor, Wang Yushuan's News. During that period, when the human emperor was leaving, he instructed the remaining people to guard the old land of the human emperor and not let anyone disturb it, and their ancestors agreed without hesitation. Now, several eras have passed, the old people have passed away, and only a handful of yellow earth is left, and the human emperor and his companions have never returned. They originally thought that all their efforts over the years were in vain, but they didn't expect that the human emperor had always been there, watching them, and knew all their efforts over the years. It's not like what others say. They are just sticking to a non-existent mission. Nangong Chen watched this scene silently. He took a deep breath and knew how difficult it was to survive in this desolate land. However, the other party was able to take root here for a long time and even reproduce and live here. This alone was enough for him to have the highest respect. Zhuing also remained silent. After knowing the truth, she felt a little sorry for these wild people. Of course, those from the Black Wind and Tianyuan tribes who wanted to do evil or even ambush and kill them were not counted. Soon, after a brief silence, Lan Linchuan was the first to come back to his senses. He looked towards Nangong Chen and knelt on one knee without any warning. "Since you have been recognized as the successor by the human emperor, from now on, my Wuling clan will respect you as their leader." That's right. 4 generations. Our Wuling clan has taken the orders of the human emperor as our mission. Now that the human emperor has recognized you as his successor, from now on, we will respect you as our leader. Lan Mo also knelt down with the remaining tribesmen, speaking in a respectful tone. Seeing this, Yu Qiong smiled helplessly. The other party's actions made them seem like heartless people. It is obvious that they, the Feather Clan, are also one of the people who have accomplished the mission. Every one of the Feather Clan, listen to my order and pay your respects to the descendant of the human emperor. From now on, the Feather Clan will also respect the descendant of the human emperor. Yu Qiong suddenly spoke, with a tone that left no room for doubt. Then, she was the first to kneel on one knee, her proud face now full of respect. Seeing this, the people of the Feather Clan did not hesitate and knelt down directly, facing Nangong Chen, and said respectfully in unison, "We are here to meet the heir of the human emperor." When Nangong Chen saw this scene, his eyes were filled with complexity. He had never imagined that just by coming to the old land of the human emperor for a baptism, he would become the successor of the human emperor, and incidentally, he seemed to have conquered the wild land. His original purpose was just to avoid exploding and dying while practicing the skills on the key of the wilderness. The current situation, is it considered as overachievement? Everyone, get up, Nangong Chen said softly. He was not a pretentious person and quickly adapted to his new identity. On the side, Zhu Ying's beautiful eyes shone brightly as she looked at him with admiration. She didn't expect that her master would bring her such a surprise. Could it be that her master had already known that he was the descendant of the human emperor? Could it be that all of this was within master's calculations? At this moment, Nangong Chen became more and more unfathomable in Zhu Ying's heart. Of course, if Nangong Chen knew what Zhu Ying was thinking, he would definitely be a little twitchy. He was not that amazing. He just came here simply to break through. After Nangong Chen finished speaking, everyone present nodded with fiery eyes. They had seen the young man's extraordinary ability, and now, when they knew that he was actually the descendant of the human emperor, they became even more excited. If it were in ancient times, this would be considered as following the dragon. Nangong Chen took a deep breath. Since the other party had chosen to follow him, he couldn't treat him unfairly. Then he pondered for a while and said, "I see that the technique you are practicing is incomplete and contains significant flaws, which will prevent you from achieving the normal breakthrough to the saint stage. During these days, I will complete the skills you have been practicing. There is hope that you will be able to break through to the level of a saint in the future. Of course, if you wish, you can move to the divine dynasty behind me to practice in the future. There, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth is abundant, which can provide you with better training." As soon as these words were spoken, everyone looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. They had already discovered the flaws in the martial arts they were practicing, but they had no choice but to continue practicing because there was no better martial arts here. But now, the other party told them that there was no need to give up their efforts, and the new skills could allow them to cultivate to a level above saints. How could they not be excited? However, as for the forces behind the other party, they were a little anxious. If they went, who would defend the wilderness? "We thank the heir of the human emperor," everyone said respectfully in unison, full of gratitude. Soon, Yu Qiong stood up, looked at Nangong Chen, and said with a neither humble nor arrogant bow, "Sir, we also want to see the scenery outside. But if we leave, there will be no one to guard the wilderness, so we appreciate your kindness." Yu Qiong is very tall, almost only slightly shorter than Nangong Chen. Standing in front of Nangong Chen can even see her stunning facial features and attractive figure. Nangong Chen didn't take it seriously after hearing this. The corner of his mouth slightly raised. "This matter is simple. I could just send someone to guard it." He looked around and found that there were many natural treasures and fertile fields in the wilderness, which were suitable for use as medicine gardens. Coincidentally, the people of their divine dynasty had such professional pharmacists. If the wilderness can be thoroughly excavated, it will be a good thing for their divine dynasty. And for Meng Huang, it will be a win-win situation. Not only will I send people to take care of this place, I will also send powerful saints and soldiers to guard this place. Can you rest assured? Nangong Chen waved his sleeves and spoke. As soon as these words came out, the two sides were shocked. The other side could actually send a saint-level strongman to guard the wilderness? So what are they worried about? Will this be too much trouble for them? Yu Qiong felt a little embarrassed after hearing this. It's okay. It's troublesome, but now that times have changed, carving a few teleportation arrays directly to the divine dynasty is not difficult. You have guarded this place for so long. Now that I have received the grace of your human emperor, I naturally cannot sit idly by. Nangong Chen waved his hand and said casually. Once these words were spoken, their concerns were completely dispelled. Doesn't that mean we'll be able to go to the outside world soon? Someone murmured, his tone full of disbelief. Most people cried with joy. Finally, one day, they could put aside their mission and go out into the world to see the scenery. "I'll wait. Thank you, sir." That voice containing excitement, gratitude, and disbelief rang out again. The moon and stars are sparse. In the back mountain of the Wuling tribe, there's a spring emitting hot steam. In the spring, one can even see precious medicines, and the fairy mist is so thick that it looks like a fairyland. This is the legendary heart refining pool. It is said that just by soaking in it for a night, one can have a clear mind and find a chance for a breakthrough. Of course, this is just an auxiliary role and cannot directly allow people to step into the next realm. Otherwise, why don't the people in the wilderness keep it for their own use? Moreover, this heart refining pool usually works best only the first time it is used, and the effect will be far worse than the first time if used multiple times. At this moment, in the heart-refining pool, Nangong Chen had his eyes closed, enjoying lying inside and feeling the changes in his state of mind. Nangong Chen, on the other hand, had not thought too much about a breakthrough. He was very calm and reviewed the events of the past few days. He didn't expect that coming to this wild place would bring him so much harvest, which was something he had not expected at the beginning. Not only did he obtain the God-level mental method, the Human Emperor Heart Sutra, but he also obtained the last of the Human Emperor's 3 supreme items, the Human Emperor's Reincarnation Seal. He was also given the title of successor to the Human Emperor and conquered the entire wilderness. Now, in the heart-refining pool that is out of reach for others, as a peak divine king, he can soak in it as long as he wants. If Xiang Kunlun and Yang Zhen on the Yellow Springs Road knew about this, they would probably be furious. Come to think of it, it seemed like he hadn't felt the gaze of that ghost-faced woman for a long time. His heart tightened. Could something have happened to the other party recently? He still had a lot of things he wanted to ask the other party. But at his current level, it seems that if anything happens to the other party, he can't help. I can only hope that nothing happens to him. Nangong Chen thought to himself that he still had a good impression of this woman with a ghost face. Soon, he thought of Wang Yuxuan, Zhou Wan'er, and the others. He wondered if they had found the person. Wang Yuxuan was born with a spiritual body, and with Zhou Wan'er having experience as a killer, it shouldn't be difficult for them to find the other party. Moreover, he had already greatly narrowed the scope and locked the other party in the northern Shenzhou. However, the next moment, a voice sounded in Nangong Chen's mind. Prince, Miss Wang and the others have sent news. It is said that the person you are looking for has been located in the Heavenly Sword Holy Land in northern Shenzhou. Shura, who was hiding in the dark, reported slowly. When he saw the words in his hand clearly, his expression became interesting. He continued to transmit his voice to Nangong Chen. It's just that she seems to have had an accident. It said that in 8 days, she will have a life and death battle with someone. It said that it was a 3-year agreement, and the other party seems to be her ex-fiancé. After hearing this, Nangong Chen immediately became interested and asked him to continue. After a few breaths, Nangong Chen completely understood the whole story and his eyes flashed. It turns out that the daughter of Gunan, Gu Mingling, whom he had been searching for, was the newly promoted saint of the Tianyuan Holy Land. Many years ago, Gu Mingling was engaged to Mo Han, a genius from a small force in northern Shenzhou. The other party, Mo Han, also has a great background. As the young master of the Mo family, he has been a child of destiny since childhood. However, one day, his cultivation suddenly disappeared, and he fell from the altar overnight. Not long after, Gu Mingling grew up and was no longer the ignorant girl she used to be. She was devoted to Taoism. After learning about this, she politely went to cancel the engagement without humiliating the other party. But it just happened that he ran into Mo Han, who had just lost all his cultivation at that time. Mo Han thought that the other party was humiliating him in a subtle way. So he signed a divorce letter on the spot and also shouted that he wanted to make a 3-year agreement with Gu Mingling. And he said the classic words, 30 years in the East, 30 years in the West, don't despise the young and poor. But later on, no one expected that Mo Han would suddenly realize and rise to prominence. Now, after returning from his training in central China, he has defeated many outstanding figures in the Holy Land. Now, her fame is known throughout the entire northern Shenzhou. In 8 days, she will fight against Gu Mingling, the new saint of the Tianyuan Holy Land. Chapter 417. Pass on my order and come to the Heavenly Sword Holy Land. Hearing this familiar script, Nangong Chen's eyes lit up, as if he discovered another leak that was growing well. Unexpectedly, this would also allow him to find a son of luck. If things continue like this, the daughter of Gunan will undoubtedly be defeated in 8 days. Nangong Chen murmured. However, thinking that Gu Nan had done him a favor and had given him the Tianyuan spiritual steel, he could not be so ungrateful. But as long as I'm here, no matter what kind of lucky guy you are, if you can win even 1 point, I lose. Nangong Chen muttered to himself, feeling extremely confident. Obviously, he was preparing to intervene in the 3-year agreement 8 days later. At this moment, the system's cold prompt sound rang in his mind again. A new sign-in location has been unlocked. Heavenly Sword Holy Land. As the words faded, there was a gleam in Nangong Chen's eyes, and the corners of his mouth rose slightly. Even the system asked him to go. It seems that he has to go to the Heavenly Sword Holy Land this time. Thinking of this, Nangong Chen's brows calmed down, and he said leisurely, "Pass on my order. In 8 days, this prince will personally visit the Heavenly Sword Holy Land." Yes, Shura responded respectfully, and then disappeared from the spot. This is the first time that Nangong Chen goes out as the crown prince. This is a matter of great importance, and must be taken seriously by the Heavenly Sword Saint land. At this moment, a timid voice sounded outside the door. Sir, may I come in? After hearing this, Nangong Chen looked a little surprised. How could it be her? But Nangong Chen still said, come in. As soon as he finished speaking, the door was pushed open with a creak. A graceful figure walked in cautiously, with pure features, crystal skin, and a pair of bright eyes like rippling water. Beneath the three-color horse-face skirt is a pair of small and exquisite bare feet, which makes people want to play with them when they see them. Grown-ups? When Lan Xin saw the scene in front of her, she suddenly felt her blood boiling. Her breathing became rapid, and she could not even speak clearly. Nangong Chen carried her on his back and sat in the heart-refining pool with his upper body naked. His body is fair and well-proportioned, with distinct muscle lines, just like a piece of jade carefully carved by God. So perfect. Even after seeing this, Lan Xin took a long time to look away. Her little face flushed red, and she couldn't help but slightly clamp her legs together. My lord, I am here to serve you. Lan Xin hesitated for a moment and then spoke. Nangong Chen nodded slightly, but did not refuse. After all, you have to enjoy it. Seeing this, Lan Xin came behind Nangong Chen and stretched out a pair of snow-white hands to gently massage his shoulders and back. Nangong Chen was very comfortable. 5 days later, at the Heavenly Sword Holy Land. Because of the northern Shenzhou, it is extremely cold all year round, surrounded by icebergs, and all you can see is snow. And in the center of Shenzhou, there is a mighty giant sword inserted directly between the snow-capped mountains. There, the islands are floating in the air, and the fairy air is ethereal, just like a fairyland. If you look closely, you will definitely find that most of the people within 100 miles are sword cultivators. That's right. This place is the legendary Holy Land of Heavenly Sword. It is also the supreme hall that many sword cultivators aspire to enter in their lifetime. The highest peak, Tianyuan Peak. 3 days later, the Crown Prince of the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty will personally visit the Heavenly Sword Holy Land to observe the battle between the ancient saint maidens. A book boy about 7 or 8 years old was holding a letter and reading it word for word. In front of him was an old man wearing a straw hat, cloth clothes, holding a boom, and exuding an unfathomable aura. This person is none other than Zhao Lei, the Holy Lord of the Heavenly Sword Holy Land. At this moment, Zhao Lei looked leisurely as he fished in the lake in front of him. Beside him stood respectfully a young woman in a plain white dress. The woman had a stunningly beautiful face, black hair like a waterfall, skin whiter than snow, and eyes like deep pools, shimmering with light, exuding a gentle and calm aura. At her waist, an ink-black longsword is very conspicuous. Now, there's probably only one person in the Holy Land who is qualified to stand beside the Holy Lord, and that is the Holy Maiden Gu Mengling. Oh, it's him who's coming. Zhao Lei seemed a little surprised, and his expression changed slightly. Even Gu Mengling's beautiful eyes couldn't help but show a strange look after hearing this. The recent sensation of the wilderness competition was known to everyone in the Xintian domain. The person with double pupils emerged and won the championship. For a moment, the attention of countless forces seemed to be focused on the man with double pupils again. The man with double pupils could be said to be a well-deserved celebrity in Xintian domain, and such an extremely outstanding man among his peers actually wanted their Heavenly Sword Holy Land, and even wanted to observe him for 3 days before fighting with Mohan. Gu Mengling suddenly felt that it was a bit far-fetched, and her red lips parted slightly. Strange, your affair with Mohan has even interested him. Zhao Lei muttered to himself, seemingly unable to understand the purpose of Nangong Chen's visit. He thought about it for a long time, but soon gave up and shook his head. Well, come on, maybe just come for some fun. Well, you pass the order down and inform the elders of the Holy Land to prepare themselves and not neglect them after 3 days. Zhao Lei looked at the servant and gave a series of instructions, fearing that he would miss anything. Soon, he seemed to have thought of something and continued to add, by the way, in 3 days, please arrange for the Crown Prince of the Divine Dynasty to sit next to me. Yes. The servant boy's pupils were filled with shock, and he nodded quickly. It was the first time he saw the Holy Lord care so much about a young man. You must know that before this, no matter which faction's genius, even the young master of a top family, came to the Holy Land, he had to behave himself in the Heavenly Sword Holy Land, let alone meet the Holy Lord. And that person with double pupils could actually sit on the same seat with the Holy Lord. One can imagine how much the Holy Lord values him. Thinking of this, he did not dare to delay and retreated in a panic. He wanted to tell the elders about this matter. Soon, only Zhao Lei and Gu Mengling were left here. Tell me, what is the reason for his sudden visit to the Holy Land? Is it for you? Zhao Lei suddenly spoke, looking at the lake in front of him with deep eyes. Obviously, he was asking Gu Mengling, who was standing beside him. After hearing this, Gu Mengling pondered for a moment and responded, Junior, you don't know. I don't know him at all. He's most likely not here for me. The Holy Lord previously saved the day in the Blood God cult. He might be here to thank the Holy Lord. She could only think of this possibility. After all, she had never met the person with double pupils. So how could the other party come for her? Maybe he was just looking for an excuse to visit the Holy Lord. After he finished speaking, Zhao Lei felt somewhat relieved. Among all his disciples, he was most satisfied with Gu Mengling, who was meticulous and thoughtful. But soon, Zhao Lei shook his head and said calmly, He definitely didn't come here to thank me. That kid has extraordinary ambition and is not an ordinary person. If he wanted to thank us, he should have let me go to his divine dynasty. There must be something in the Holy Land that is worth his coming. Gu Mengling, who was standing by, nodded after hearing this, her beautiful eyes full of curiosity. It was the first time she knew the temperament of people with double pupils. You have to know that people like this can only be heard of rumors at ordinary times. Even big shots find it difficult to meet them, let alone geniuses like them. She was already very content to know some rumors that others didn't know. Zhao Lei had no idea that Gu Mengling was thinking so much. He just looked at the towering sword monument with deep eyes. If there is anything that can attract the world's geniuses back, it is probably only that sword monument. I just don't know if the other party came here for this purpose. Soon, Zhao Lei stopped thinking about it and earnestly instructed, the battle in 3 days must be won beautifully no matter what. We must not lose face for our holy land in front of that person. Yes, I will win the battle with Mo Han. After hearing this, Gu Mengling nodded slightly, her face cold, and her tone filled with unparalleled confidence. At the same time, a hint of excitement flashed deep in her eyes. The legendary figure, the one with double pupils, is known to everyone in the world, and she happens to be one of them. However, she does not have the fanaticism of those admirers, but just hides it deep in her heart. As the servant boys spread the news, it didn't take long for the entire Heavenly Sword Holy Land to know that the person with double pupils was coming. These disciples and elders were so excited that they couldn't stop smiling. Oh my God, I never thought that in 3 days, I would be able to see the legendary person with double pupils. It's rumored that he's incredibly talented and exudes the aura of a tyrant. I want to see if he has the brilliance and the wit, as the legends say. If possible, please allow us disciples to spar with him. We have relied on the one with double pupils for a long time. A sparring match? Just forget it, you little brats. Even we, the older generation, don't know if we can beat you. Yes, you have no idea how valuable the Wilderness Championship is. Hearing that these disciples still wanted to challenge those with double pupils, the elders couldn't bear to discourage them. Is he really such a god? I wonder how he compares to the Holy Son and Holy Daughter. Some people were curious. I think they're evenly matched. Someone was about to say that he was not a match for the enemy in one move, but when he saw that person was here, he immediately changed his words. Among the crowd, there was a young man with sharp eyebrows and bright eyes, dressed in black, with a cold expression and an aura of someone who is not to be messed with. This person's name is Yiling Xuan, and he is the Holy Son of the Heavenly Sword Holy Land. He just reached the peak of his power some time ago, and is said to be on the verge of breaking through to the level of God King. However, he is extremely old, more than 1,000 years old, and can be considered an older prodigy. After hearing this, Yiling Xuan snorted coldly. 3 days later, I want to see if that person with double pupils is as evil as this. This statement was echoed by many of his followers. That's right. If that person with double pupils were to lower his realm and fight against Yi Shengzi, it would be hard to say who would win or lose. Chapter 4:18. Mo Han's plan, the 5 fate-defying sons. At the same time, inside the Mo family, however, there was a completely different scene. Under the evening light, the window paper was covered with blood, and shrill screams could be heard from time to time. You bastard! Were you the one who looked down on me back then? Mo Han looked at the trembling boy beneath him, his eyes filled with coldness and murderous intent, and his face was already stained with blood. At his feet, there were already many corpses of his tribesmen lying, and even some elders of the tribe had been killed. No one would have thought that the prodigy who was once looked down upon by his tribe would, after becoming powerful, return to the tribe, and the first thing he would do was to massacre the entire tribe. He killed all those who had mocked him in the past. Even their families were not spared. Cousin, I was wrong. Please don't kill me. From now on, you can even let me be your dog. Mo Yun said tremblingly, and quickly crawled under Mo Han's feet, begging him to spare his life. You were the one who called me a waste back then, weren't you? Mo Han said in a cold voice, like an evil ghost crawling out of hell. That wasn't me, cousin. That was my second brother who said that. From the beginning to the end, I have never mocked you in the clan. Mo Yun became anxious and quickly denied it. He had never had any contact with the other party back then. So how could he possibly mock him? After hearing this, Mo Han seemed to remember that the other party had not mocked him before, as if he, like him, had just returned to the tribe recently. But the knife has been drawn, so there is no reason to take it back. A hint of crazy murderous intent flashed in Mo Han's eyes. Your second brother? That means he has something to do with you. So you must die too. After he finished speaking, Mo Han swung his butcher knife and killed the last man. Sitting in the first seat, Mo Han's father watched this scene silently, his throat extremely dry. He had never thought that his former son would become like this. He really couldn't persuade the other party. At this moment, only a few irrelevant members were left in the tribe, looking at Mo Han with trembling bodies. But fortunately, Mo Han did not commit murder again. However, most of the survivors are young women with fair skin and beautiful looks. I don't know what Mo Han's intentions are. Looking at the corpses all over the ground, Mo Han laughed, a very happy laugh. Now, the only one missing is you, Gu Mengling. When you came to humiliate me back then, could you have imagined this day would come? Now he has broken through to the late stage of the great power realm and has become a well-known strong man within a radius of 100 miles. He is no longer the same as before, and his strength has brought him extreme expansion. Seeing this, Mo Han's father shook his head slightly, his face hesitant and persuaded. Gu Mengling has become the holy maiden of the Heavenly Sword Holy Land. If you kill her, the powerful men of the Heavenly Sword Holy Land will not allow it. By then, you won't be able to escape. So what? Mo Han roared, his eyes filled with extreme madness. When his father saw this, he sighed and said nothing more. Now his own son really made him feel unfamiliar, as he had been blinded by his own strength. Mo Han also gradually calmed down and silently told his plan. As for Gu Mengling, I accidentally learned that she is the daughter of Gu Nan, the dean of Tianyuan Academy thousands of years ago. Father, you must know how many enemies Gu Nan had in the past. If I can find those powerful people who had grudges against Gu Nan in the next 3 days, they will definitely be happy to help. After all, no one wants to see the daughter of their enemy living so freely in Xintian territory. I want to see whether the Heavenly Sword Holy Land is willing to offend those powerful warriors from the deep mountains. After saying this, Mo Han smiled grimly, as if he had already seen Gu Mengling's death. At the same time, it is also located in northern Shenzhou. In a remote and uninhabited area, there are wild beasts roaming everywhere. Here, there is an ancient palace that was formed naturally. It exudes a long-standing and terrifying aura, which makes the surrounding beasts dare not approach and flee in fear. And in the temple, there stand 5 enormous scrolls, which extend from top to bottom like a waterfall, more than 10,000 feet high. On that scroll, there were 5 young and handsome young men, and their every move revealed their dominance and dignity. Some people are bathing in a sea of fire, with their backs against the golden crow, like the scorching sun, holding ancient weapons, full of vigor and vitality. When his eyes open and close, he gives people an indescribable sense of oppression. There are also those with eyes as cold as lightning, holding a heavenly sword in hand. When they draw their swords, the sky collapses and the earth cracks, the sky breaks apart. These 5 people are the 5 most terrifying geniuses in ancient times, known as the 5 sons who defy fate. Every one of them is a prodigy capable of suppressing an entire era. In those days, in order to wait for the Golden Age, they sealed their cultivation and deliberately fell asleep in this scroll of immortal weapons. However, it is worth mentioning that in order to seize the initiative, 4 of the 5 sons of defying fate were born thousands of years ago and went to the upper realm. Now, there is only one person left, and that is the one with the most terrifying talent among the 5 who defied fate back then, the son of the fallen sun god. At this moment, looking at the strange vision of the golden crow boiling the sea in the 9th heaven, an old Taoist tremblingly hurried into the ancient hall. Then he actually knelt down directly towards the portrait of the fallen sun god in the center. That's right, this person is Fun Dao. No one had expected that Fun Dao would be hiding in Beishan's house. Fun Dao knelt on the ground sincerely, his eyes full of passion, like a most loyal servant, looking at the portrait in the center. The golden crow appears, and the fallen yang comes out. The raging flames have been burning the sky for more than 10 days, and now the golden crow has appeared. This means that the son of the fallen sun, one of the 5 most terrifying sons who defy fate in the legend, is about to be born. And the son of fallen sun god, in ancient times, was a member of the Taoist lineage of their sun god palace. Thinking of this, Fun Dao became excited, and the corners of his mouth rose slightly. I guess after so much time has passed, the outside world must have been in turmoil, and the people with double pupils must have been killed by the blood god cult. And his sun god palace will usher in a true king. At that time, under the leadership of the fallen sun god, it will surely suppress an era and move towards glory. Fun Dao couldn't help but feel a little sorry, thinking that the man with double pupils died too early. If that little beast knew that there was such a powerful genius in the world, he would probably feel inferior. Ha ha ha. Fun Dao laughed inwardly. Soon, a man bathed in flames slowly walked out from the central scroll, and a terrifying aura instantly swept across the entire hall. Fun Dao's pupils suddenly shrank, and the flames that were coming towards him seemed to turn him into ashes. He didn't dare to look up, kowtowed fiercely, and shouted, "Welcome to the birth of the fallen sun god Sun." The next moment, the red figure flashed in front of Fun Dao and attacked him without any warning. He grabbed his neck with one hand and lifted Fun Dao up. "Who are you? Why do you have a name, Jigu?" The eyes of the son of the fallen sun god were cold, as if he was looking down at a tiny insect, and the terrifying pressure poured down like a tide. Under this oppressive feeling, Fun Dao, a saint, could not even muster the slightest thought of resistance, and his face turned extremely red. "Sir, I am the current palace master of the Sun Palace." Fun Dao was about to suffocate, and spoke quickly, but a deep joy flashed in the depths of his eyes. "You must know that the 5 sons of Ni Ming had reached the peak of quasi-sainthood in those days, and then they sealed their cultivation and entered this ancient palace to sleep. I just woke up, and I'm not even a match for him in one move. That means that the opponent's strength is far more terrifying than they imagined. This is definitely a good thing for them, and it is enough to lead their Sun Palace to glory." Oh, after hearing this, the son of fallen young god glanced at him sideways, and when he saw that the pattern on Fun Dao's clothes was indeed familiar, he let him go. Has the sun god palace fallen to this state? Just any random person can become the palace master. The son of the fallen sun god shook his head, his tone full of disdain. In his era, the palace master was not so weak. Yes. Fun Dao didn't dare to retort and could only smile awkwardly. "Well, I've just been born and don't know much about this world. I'll let you tell me about the situation in this world." The son of the fallen sun god did not care too much about it, and spoke lightly, with a tone that left no room for doubt. "Yes." Fun Dao didn't dare to refuse, and said respectfully, with a gleam in his eyes. 3 days later, in the wilderness, accompanied by a terrifying aura erupting in the back mountain, all the people in the wilderness looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. That sir is about to break through to the quasi-saint level. Soon, a group of powerful men from the wilderness gathered in the back mountain. They all looked at the scene in front of them with shock. Purple air comes from the east, divine light covers the sky, and chaos begins to emerge. Horrifying visions intertwined in the sky, and sometimes one could see dragons and phoenixes circling, their roars terrifying the wild beasts. Lan Linchuan was stunned and speechless for a moment. A look of horror also flashed across Yu Qiong's beautiful eyes. They had never seen anyone break through to the quasi-saint level and experience such a terrifying phenomenon. It is no exaggeration to say that he has broken through to above the level of saint. Sure enough, this is what's recorded in the ancient books. Every time a demon breaks through, a terrifying scene will occur. Lan Mo seemed to remember something and spoke while suppressing his shock. Zhu Ying and a group of young people from the wilderness also stared at the sky in shock and admiration. This may be the only chance they have in their lifetime to see such a scene. The vision lasted for half a day. During this half day, the mountains were shaking, the void was trembling, and even the remnants of the saint level were roaring in fear in the depths of the wilderness and fleeing quickly. It was as if some terrifying existence was about to be born in the back mountain. Lan Linchuan and others have been guarding silently and never left. From their frightened eyes, one could tell how much shock they had suffered during this half day. Soon, until the strange vision gradually faded away, they dared to raise their eyes and look towards the back mountain. There was a figure in white clothes as white as snow. Chapter 419 Departure to the Heavenly Sword Holy Land. This person is none other than Nangong Chen. He still had the same indifferent expression. His white clothes were whiter than snow. His body was shrouded in divine light, and he looked handsome and elegant, as if no change had occurred from before. But the closer they got, the more they could feel the terrifying immortal aura and divine light flowing under the young man's white clothes, making him completely different from before. Just a leak of breath caused the void to tremble, making it impossible for them to have even a thought of resistance in their hearts, just like true immortals in the mortal world. In addition, the other party's mysterious eyes seemed to have undergone a transformation during this breakthrough. When they opened and closed, an astonishing beam of light burst out, which made them dare not look directly at it. Just a glance made the soul in the body tremble uncontrollably, as if he could see the sun and moon collapsing and the stars shattering. They dared not imagine how powerful Nangong Chen would become after he broke through to the quasi-saint level. Some people present couldn't help but swallow their saliva to relieve the tension in their hearts. Zhu Ying, Lan Xin, and Yu Qiong all had strange lights in their beautiful eyes as they stared at each other. "Congratulations, sir, for breaking through to the quasi-saint realm," everyone said respectfully in unison. Upon seeing this, Zhu Ying also bowed respectfully to Nangong Chen and said with a small smile, "Congratulations, Master, on returning to quasi-sage status." Nangong Chen was originally quite high-spirited, but after hearing Zhu Ying's words, the corners of his mouth twitched and he looked at her deeply. Seeing him looking at her, Zhu Ying's lips curled up slightly. Nangong Chen didn't know whether she did it on purpose or not. He shook his head, and without thinking too much, he shifted his gaze to the people in Menghuang. "Thank you all for your help these past few days." Nangong Chen bowed and said softly. He didn't know if it was an illusion, but he felt that the heart-refining pool he was soaking in seemed to have more medicinal herbs added. But no matter what, it was ultimately their credit that I was able to break through to the quasi-saint level. If it weren't for him, I don't know when I could break through to the quasi-saint level. I should be grateful. Nangong Chen's actions made them feel flattered. But after they realized what was happening, all the people from the wilderness present, whether they were from the Wuling tribe or the Yu tribe, felt warm in their hearts and were deeply moved. They could see that even though the other party was extremely talented and held a high position, they did not bully others by taking advantage of their power, but treated them equally. This also proves that the young man's character is not comparable to that of other geniuses. It is difficult for such a person to fail to win people's hearts. After hearing this, Lan Linchuan smiled and said, No, sir, your presence here is truly a blessing to us, and it brings glory to our humble home." As soon as these words were spoken, everyone echoed them. "Yes, sir, if you hadn't come this time, we would have died in the Black Wind clan's conspiracy. What's more, the Lord has allowed us to go out and see the world without worries, fulfilling the unfulfilled wish of our ancestors. These wild people have true feelings flowing in their eyes and are extremely sincere. Only at this moment did they truly recognize Nangong Chen as their new king of the wilderness." Nangong Chen saw this scene, shook his head and didn't take it seriously. He didn't think he was noble, he just did what he had to do. Soon, he took out a set of exercises and passed it to Lan Linchuan, saying, "This is the gift I leave for you. Over the past few days, I have thoroughly perfected and improved the Dharma you're practicing. Your future practice of this Dharma will not encounter the same problems as before. In other words, this technique is enough to allow you to cultivate to a level above that of a saint." As soon as these words were spoken, everyone in Menghuang became excited. They cheered, their eyes filled with excitement. The problem that had troubled them for tens of thousands of years was actually solved by the other party, just like that. Lan Linchuan and others even wanted to keep Nangong Chen for a few more days before leaving, but Nangong Chen refused because he had important matters to attend to. Soon, Nangong Chen looked at the people from the wilderness who were reluctant to leave and said softly, "Everyone go back. There's no need to see you off. We'll have a chance to meet again in the future." After this, it won't be long before someone from the Divine Dynasty arrives. When they do, someone will take you to the Divine Dynasty, and your new life will soon begin. Goodbye. After saying that, Nangong Chen waved his sleeves and stepped into the white jade carriage, with Zhu Ying following closely behind him. There was only a dragon roar, and in an instant, the flames surged and turned into streams of light, and in the blink of an eye, they disappeared thousands of miles away. Seeing this, the people from the wilderness still did not leave. Only when they saw the red flame completely disappear did they feel dazed and think that the past few days were like a dream. Not long after, these people left one after another, leaving only two graceful figures. As the sun set, they still looked out at the view reluctantly. "Do you like him?" Yu Qiong chuckled, and she saw a hint of sadness in Lan Xion's eyes. After saying this, Lan Xion trembled instantly, like a frightened little white rabbit. She looked around and saw that there was no one around, so she knew that the noble leader of the Yu tribe was talking about her. In an instant, Lan Xion's fair face was covered with a blush, and she quickly waved her hands. I'm not, I don't like you. I haven't said who it is yet." The corners of Yu Qiong's mouth curled up slightly, bright as fire, like a ray of sunlight rising in the winter, brilliant and dazzling. "I have to say, that boy is quite charming. If she were Lan Xion's age, she would be as attracted to him as Lan Xion is. It's not surprising at all. Lan Xin couldn't help but be stunned, as if she had seen the most beautiful woman in the world. Soon, Yuqiong turned her back, paused, and said, "If you like her, you might as well pursue her boldly. You're still young. Otherwise, when you reach my age, you won't have the courage you had when you were young." After she finished speaking, there was also a hint of sadness in the depths of her eyes, and her tone was slightly emotional, and then she left. After hearing this, Lan Xin stood there in a daze, and there seemed to be a flame burning in her beautiful eyes. Tianyuan Divine Dynasty. Inside the palace, Nangong Chen was handling government affairs. Suddenly, a voice sounded from his mind. When he realized what was happening, he was stunned. His pupils suddenly shrank as he muttered, "What the hell?" Nangong Chen broke through to quasi-sage, and he also subdued Meng Huang in the process. If the person who passed the message to him was a confidant, or if it was Shura who said it himself, he would probably think that he had received false news. If each of these pieces of news were released to the outside world, no one knows how much shock it would cause. It's enough to cause earthquakes in the entire Xiantian realm several times. Since ancient times, he has never heard of anyone achieving a breakthrough after entering the heart-refining pool for a few days. It takes everyone from dozens of years to several decades. Even he was considered fast, as it took him several years to find a chance to break through. And his son, only a few days? Suddenly, I remembered that the brat seemed to be only 19 years old this year. In other words, he had already reached the quasi-saint level at the age of 19. Fuck. Nangong Chen couldn't help but swear. Even he, as a father, did not expect that his son would be such a monster. This should be considered the youngest quasi-saint in the history of Xiantian realm. Soon, he thought of the second half of the message. He actually conquered Meng Huang as well. Nangong Chen was a little bit unbelievable, and his thick eyebrows and big eyes widened. In the entire Xiantian realm, Meng Huang is a fertile land with many rare and exotic animals. It is watched by many major forces. However, after so many years, not only are people not willing to cooperate with you, they won't even let you in. Someone once said that if one could take over that piece of wild land and start mining it, it would be easy to become rich enough to rival a country. And that brat just went out for a trip and did something that no one else could do in millions of years? Thinking of this, Nangong Chen raised the corners of his mouth, feeling so relieved. Soon, he called Suming over and asked him to do the whole thing. What? The prince actually conquered that wild land? He also wants those people from the wild land to join our Tianyuan Divine Dynasty. Suming was also deeply shocked. He was speechless for a moment and muttered, "If we had that piece of land in the wilderness, our divine dynasty could solve the problem of insufficient spiritual medicines. We also have that 1,000-foot spiritual field, which can be used to cultivate spiritual plants in our divine dynasty." It's sent. Seeing him like this, Nangong Chen appeared calm on the surface, but in fact he was smiling brightly inside. Nangong Chen walked forward and patted Su Ming on the shoulder. All right. What's there to get excited about? It's just a piece of land. Leave it to you to do it. Make sure you fulfill my son's request. Yes, your majesty. Su Ming was very excited. He didn't expect that the other party would trust him so much for such an important matter. He was a little touched. He made up his mind not to let the other party down and to do this job well. Chapter 423-Year Agreement. Heavenly Sword Holy Land. The square in front of the sword monument was filled with people, and every seat on the viewing platform was occupied. Almost every disciple or elder of the Heavenly Sword Holy Land was present today and arrived on time. The reason is simple. Today is not only the 3-year agreement between their saint and the ignorant thief, but also the legendary noble and incomparable person with double pupils is here in person. Therefore, they must not be negligent. And on the first seat at the top, there are 2 purple chairs with gold thread, symbolizing the noble status. On one of the chairs sat an old man with an aura as profound as the depths. This man was none other than the Holy Lord Jiaolei. As for the second chair next to him, it has a special meaning. Even if the Supreme Elder comes, he must sit obediently in the Elder's seat today and not overstep the line. Looking at the entire Heavenly Sword Holy Land, who is qualified to sit on the same seat with the Holy Lord? Even the Saint Gu Mingling is not qualified. Obviously, that seat is not for people in the Holy Land. When everyone saw this, their eyes sparkled, but they didn't dare to speculate too much. After everything was ready, the disciples of the Holy Land straightened their backs, looked straight ahead, and waited quietly for the 3-year battle to begin. On the square, there was a graceful figure standing tall and graceful. Her beautiful face attracted many people's attention. This woman is Gu Mingling. Today, Gu Mingling has changed her usual behavior and is wearing a moon-white gauze dress. She looks like a dream under the light, her black hair swaying in the wind, revealing her delicate and youthful face. Her face was close to perfect, without any flaws to be found. Her straight and slender legs were covered in stockings woven from snow-white jade silk, revealing a section of her tender and attractive thigh skin. The black sword on her waist adds a touch of solemnity to the girl's temperament, making her look like a female knight. After seeing this, the elders present nodded frequently, showing their appreciation. I think Gu Mingling is the perfect person to serve as the face of the entire Holy Land. He's coming. And soon, a cry of surprise was heard. In the distance of the square, I saw a young man in black tights walking towards here step by step. He has a tall and straight figure and an ordinary face. Not too mediocre, but not handsome either, just an ordinary person. But in those eyes, there was unparalleled confidence and fearlessness, and his black robe rustled. That's right. He is the person Gu Mingling wanted to break off her engagement with, Emohan. When the disciples present saw this, they pointed and talked about it. Is he Emohan, the one the saint broke off his engagement with a few years ago? He looks quite ordinary. No wonder the saint broke off the engagement. If it were me, I would break off the engagement too. That's right. Who the hell is worthy of being called saint? Why don't you take a piss and see what a toad you look like? If nothing goes as expected today, this person will most likely make a fool of himself right under our noses. I heard that he went to Zhongzhou to practice for a while, but no matter what, he is just from a small family. There is nothing to be afraid of. On the square, a presiding elder frowned slightly upon hearing this and uttered 2 words, silence. What a disgrace to make so much noise. After these words were spoken, the place became much quieter, but some people still spoke wildly to Emohan. Seeing this, Emohan's expression became gloomy and he glanced at them coldly. When he becomes a master of magical skills in the future, the first place he will destroy is the Heavenly Sword Holy Land. Soon, Emohan noticed the stunning Gu Mingling in the square. The moment he saw it, he couldn't help but be stunned. The other person was so beautiful that he wanted to possess her, but when he thought about the other person's previous rejection of him, he couldn't help but get angry. What others don't know is that he actually turns hate into love. It was because he had loved her before that he particularly wanted to drag this beautiful Gu Mingling into the abyss and make her fall to the bottom of the valley. Gu Mingling, do you know how long I've been waiting for this day? Emohan gritted his teeth and spoke each word, as if he wanted to spit out the endless resentment. During these 3 years, he has used almost every possible means to become stronger, and now he has reached the late stage of the Great Power Realm. 3 years ago, you looked down on me and humiliated me by breaking off the engagement. 3 years later, have you ever imagined what this scene would be like today? After hearing this, Gu Mingling's beautiful eyes calmed down, her red lips parted slightly, and she said calmly, Emohan, you're wrong. 3 years ago, I never humiliated you, and I've compensated you accordingly. This was all caused by you. As for this scene, I have thought about it, but I don't regret breaking off the engagement. Everyone has their own choices. I want to pursue my own path. Feelings are not important to me. The girl looked rational, and her words were clear and sweet, just like the sound of flowing water in the mountains. After he finished speaking, everyone present nodded slightly, with approval flashing in their eyes. Yes, I have given you all the compensation you deserve, and you should have accepted it. How can you still be so shameless as to make this 3-year agreement? For a moment, everyone's impression of Emohan became even worse. When Emohan heard this, his eyes turned cold and his fists clenched. He seemed to have thought of something and sneered. You didn't humiliate me? Ridiculous. I'll never forget the look your people from the Holy Land gave me when you came to break off the engagement. Even now that he has become powerful, the scene from that year often appears in his mind and has become a thorn in his heart. Fortunately, everything should be over today. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but calm down. He pointed at Gu Mingling and spoke with unparalleled confidence. Today, you must pay the price for your arrogance. From now on, your Heavenly Sword Holy Land will also regard you as an insult. After coming here, he used the 100 Refinements Divine Canon to study the opponent, and he knew all of the opponent's moves. It can be said that victory is inevitable today. However, Emohan was extremely cautious and silently said in his heart, Bai Lian, what is the probability that I can defeat Gu Mingling? 99%. The emotionless voice of a girl sounded in his mind. Hearing this, he couldn't help but frown. That's not right. Why is it only 99? Wasn't it always 100% in the past? So where's the remaining difference? Emohan asked quickly, but there was no reply yet. Seeing this, Emohan did not force it too much and shook his head, thinking that it was just a little bit short and would not affect anything. 99%, close to a 100% winning rate, should be foolproof. Emohan couldn't help but feel confident. When his cultivation was exhausted, who would have thought that he would awaken a magical book under the cliff? Its name is the 100 Refining Divine Canon, and it is also the biggest secret of his life. which even his father has not told him. This book is not only omniscient and omnipotent, knowing everything in the world, but also can copy the opponent's moves one-to-one during battle for him to learn. More importantly, the 100 Refining Divine Canon can also tell him his winning rate against his opponents, and he has never missed it so far. It can be said that it was because of this that he rose rapidly and embarked on the road to becoming a genius. Everyone he defeated became a stepping stone for him to become stronger. How dare you? I am the holy maiden of the Holy Land. How can a country boy like you insult me? At the same time, a loud shout rang out from the audience, waking Mo Han up immediately. Everyone looked up quickly, and their eyes lit up when they saw that it was Yi Lingshuan. It's the Holy Sun. Could it be that he wants to teach this lunatic a lesson? All right, I support the Holy Sun. This official is disrespectful and has no sense of etiquette. I've been displeased with him for a long time. They were talking about a lot and really hoped that Yi Lingshuan would teach Mo Han a lesson. Yi Lingshuan stood up. His eyes were cold, and there seemed to be a hint of murderous intent in them. He stared straight at Mo Han with an indignant look on his face. Gu Mingling is his white moonlight. How can he allow others to insult her? Soon, Yi Lingshuan flew down and landed steadily on the square. Then, he looked at Mo Han and said coldly, "You dare to be so arrogant when you come to my holy land? Boy, you think your life is not long enough. If that's the case, I will teach you a lesson on behalf of the ancient saint." For a moment, the powerful aura of the peak of the powerful realm burst out, causing many disciples to change their expression slightly. But soon, they became happy. The stronger the Holy Sun was, the better he would be able to teach this ignorant kid a lesson. Where did this wild dog come from? Are you worthy enough to teach me a lesson? Mo Han smiled with great disdain. He had just used the 100 Refining Divine Canon to calculate the chances of victory between the two of them, and it was slightly higher than the chance of defeating Gu Mingling, a full 100%. This way he would feel at ease and be able to show off his prowess in front of others without restraint. Boy, Yi Lingshuan's face suddenly turned gloomy. He didn't expect that Mo Han would dare to humiliate him like this. Immediately, he prepared to take action. On the other side, Mo Han was also ready to welcome them. At this tense moment, a loud dragon roar sounded from the sky. The sound was as loud as a huge bell, deafening. The terrifying dragon power in it made everyone present change color and sweat. The elders of the Heavenly Sword Holy Land even stood up and looked into the distance as if they were facing a formidable enemy. Only Zhao Lei, who was sitting above, raised his calm eyes slightly, and there seemed to be a hint of deep meaning in them. The scene was interrupted instantly, and even the three people on the square looked into the void. Above the sky, an unknown distance away from the Holy Land, a streak of flame was streaking across the clouds, rushing towards them at the speed of lightning. Not long after, everyone could clearly see the huge monster standing directly above their heads. Seeing the scene before them, everyone's pupils suddenly shrank. It was actually a saint-level red dragon, its body covering the sky and blocking out the sun. As it tossed and turned, terrifying dragon power poured down, as if the entire sky was burning. What shocked them the most was not this, but that behind the red dragon, there was actually a white jade chariot. The red dragon pulls the cart, burns the sky, and boils the sea. There is only one such person in the entire Xiantian domain. At that moment, everyone had the answer in their hearts. The next moment, a leisurely voice sounded from the dome. It seems that this prince is not late. The door curtain of the white jade chariot was pulled open by a crystal-clear arm, and then the owner of the white hand appeared in everyone's sight. The young woman was stunningly beautiful, dressed in a black and gold phoenix tail skirt that made her look graceful and elegant. Her black hair was piled high, and her golden phoenix hairpin was shining brightly. She looked like a princess who had walked out of scroll, making the world pale in comparison. After the woman came out, she waited respectfully by the side. When everyone saw this, their expressions changed slightly. The rumors were not false. The one following the man with double pupils was indeed the holy maiden of the Holy Land of Formations, the genius of formations who had not been seen for thousands of years, Zhu Ying. They were not like the wandering cultivators in the wilderness that day. They had some understanding of the people from other holy places, so they naturally recognized each other at a glance. Not long after, a tall and graceful figure like Jade walked out from the carriage. The young man was surrounded by fairy light and mist, with an extraordinary temperament, just like a real immortal in the mortal world. Only through the fairy mist could one vaguely see his handsome and extraordinary face and his terrifying eyes. Just a simple glance left everyone present with a great shock, and their hearts were moved. The young women present were all staring at each other the moment the other party came out. Those beautiful eyes like autumn water were filled with fascination, and her legs couldn't help but tighten slightly. Chapter 421. Nangong Chen arrives at the Holy Land, unable to analyze. The previous chapter has been completed. Readers can read it again and add 2,000 words. Soon, Nangong Chen retracted the white jade chariot, and Xiaoqi also shrank in size and quickly lay on his shoulder. Seeing this, Nangong Chen looked calm, walked in the air, and slowly walked downwards. Zhuing, who was standing by, also hurriedly followed. At this moment, the whole place was still silent, and everyone stared at the young man in the snow-white clothes in disbelief. As an indifferent voice sounded, they gradually came back to their senses. Meet the Holy Lord of Heavenly Sword. Nangong Chen bowed slightly toward Zhao Lei, and Zhuing beside him also bowed slightly. Upon hearing this, Zhao Lei forced himself to suppress the shock in his heart and showed a hint of joy. It's been a long time since we last met. Your strength has improved a lot. He sighed slightly, his heart already surging. If he sensed correctly, the other party had already broken through to the quasi-saint level. How old is the other party? It's so scary. Nangong Chen smiled, but said nothing. Then, Zhao Lei patted the empty seat beside him and said with a smile, "Last time we met, time was tight, and we didn't have time to talk much. Let's take this opportunity to catch up." Zhao Lei had a gentle smile and a warm expression on his face, which made many elders and disciples stunned. This was the first time they had seen their own holy lord and had such an expression on their face. Throughout history, he always had a cold face or didn't speak. If there weren't so many people seeing him here, they would probably suspect that he had been possessed by another spirit. But what shocked them the most was that the purple gold wooden chair next to the Holy Lord was really reserved for those with double pupils. Above, Nangong Chen did not act pretentiously upon hearing this, but sat down directly, nodding slightly. His every move and gesture exuded an innate nobility, making it not at all awkward for him to sit there. Climbing to a high place and looking far into the distance, you can see everything in the Holy Land. Soon, he noticed the situation in the square, and there was a hint of amusement in his eyes. It seems that it hasn't started yet. It's just the right time. In the audience, although today was the battle that had been agreed upon 3 years ago, they were all paying no attention to it at the moment, and their attention was focused on the figure in snow clothes sitting on the purple gold chair. Is this the legendary person with double pupils? Someone whispered, looking shocked. The aura of the other party was not inferior to that of the elders and strong men present, and was even better. I don't know if it was their illusion. The most terrifying thing is that the other person's eyes, just a glance at them, gave them an indescribable feeling of oppression, as if they were suffocating. It is enough to see how big the gap is between them and each other. Many people present at the scene had previously thought that the man with double pupils was exaggerated and was not as terrifying as people said. Now it seems that they were narrow-minded. In the square, ever since the figure in snow-white clothes came out of the carriage, Gu Mengling had fixed her eyes on the other person, her face dazed, as if there was some magic in the other person that attracted her to keep looking at him. But she soon came to her senses and realized her gaffe. A blush rose beside her ears, hidden by her black hair. The other party was indeed even more extraordinary than she had imagined. But what made her most curious was that for some reason, there was a familiar aura on the other person, an aura that made her feel safe and comfortable, and even made her want to get closer. It was as if the other person was her relative. Immediately, she shook her head violently, reminding herself not to dream too much. She had been an orphan since she was a child, and was raised in a holy land. Would she have any relatives? If you get cheated by others because of this, not even a bone will be left. Gu Mengling, who grew up alone, smiled at herself, knowing full well the cruelty of this world. Not far away, Imohan took a deep breath and glanced at the young man who was high and mighty like a banished immortal, his eyes extremely cold. Damn, why is he here? This reminded him of the last time they met in Chu City. The other party was still the center of attention, looking down at him from a superior position. That casual glance made the weak boy feel a chill down his spine, as if he was walking on thin ice. But I didn't expect that after so much time has passed, seeing him again would still leave some shadows. This made him feel inexplicably unhappy, and he wished the other person would pull him down and take his place. Soon, Imohan shifted his gaze to the woman next to the young man, with a hint of surprise in his pupils. Where did this stunning woman come from? Why is she different from the one he saw last time? From what those people said, it seems like she is the holy maiden of the Holy Land of Tianjin. It turns out to be so important. Thinking of this, Imohan couldn't help but have evil thoughts in his mind. This kind of woman is most suitable to be his woman. But soon, he saw a scene that broke his heart. The person he regarded as a goddess was actually massaging the boy's skin, and she had a smile on her face and looked very happy. Imohan's heart suddenly trembled, his fists clenched, and his face became as gloomy as charcoal. It was like the white moonlight goddess in my mind, but when I saw her again after many years, she had already become a married woman. Damn it, he really deserves to die. This made him look at the young man in the snow-white clothes again with some resentment. In his heart, the other party had died miserably. Above, Nangong Chen seemed to sense something and glanced at Mo Han in the square. Coincidentally, they met those eyes full of resentment. For a moment, Nangong Chen seemed to understand something. With a hint of amusement on his lips, he said, "Push harder. It turns out that you were the little bug I saw that day." Yes. After hearing this, Zhuing massaged Nangong Chen even harder. She placed her bare hands lightly on his shoulders and kneaded them vigorously, with an expression of great joy in her eyes. Nangong Chen is always so good to her, so she naturally has to cherish the opportunity to repay him. Seeing this scene, Mo Han's face looked as ugly as if he had eaten shit. He knew that the other party was trying to disgust him on purpose. But soon, his heart was replaced by another emotion, that is excitement. Who would have thought that after just a few days of not seeing each other, he felt that the other party seemed stronger than before. Even he felt ashamed of the speed of progress and stopped in his tracks. But this also proves that the other party must have a big secret. As long as he uses the 100 Refinements Divine Canon to analyze it, he will learn all the other party's skills and surpass the other party. Thinking of that time, when all the women around the other party surrounded him, Mo Han almost laughed out loud. "Ba Lian, analyze him for me." He gave orders to the 100 Refining Divine Canon in his mind, his eyes full of confidence. Last time he was unable to analyze it due to lack of strength, but now that he has reached the late stage of the Great Power Realm, he doesn't believe that he still cannot analyze it. He must dig out all the other party's secrets and the martial arts they have practiced. Unexpectedly, after a while, the familiar voice sounded, but it was a completely different answer. "The strength is too weak to be analyzed." Mo Han was stunned for a few breaths, and then when he reacted, he cursed in his heart. "Why can't you figure it out? Aren't you known as omniscient and omnipotent? If a mere genius can't figure it out, what's the point of you?" But he didn't know that there was a space in his mind. The pink-haired girl sat on a huge book. Her face was flawless. When she heard the bursts of angry voices, the corners of her mouth curled up slightly. "Lulu, I won't let you analyze it. I won't let you analyze it. I'll make you mad. I'll make you mad. You still want to analyze my master, you idiot? Dream on." She shook her snow-white feet and made a face toward the sky. But unfortunately, Mo Han outside was unaware of the situation and just kept cursing. Soon, Mo Han saw that no one answered, so he kept comforting himself in his heart. "That's fine. If it can't be analyzed, then it can't be analyzed. It's just an exception. I don't need this person. I will be able to stand at the top of this continent in the future." After a while, he finally calmed down. At the same time, Yiling Xuan on the opposite side also came out of the shock just now and looked at the young man in the snow-white clothes above with some relief. With just one glance, he knew the gap between himself and the other party was as huge as heaven and earth, insurmountable. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat and was glad that he didn't provoke the other party. Soon, Yiling Xuan set his eyes on Mo Han opposite him, his eyes full of ill intentions. He wanted to show his strength in front of the number one person among his peers, maybe to make the other party remember him. At this moment, even he was not aware that his original mentality had quietly changed. "Come and fight that reckless lunatic on the other side." Yiling Xuan shouted coldly, with a look of extreme disdain on his face. Mo Han was awakened by the sound. He shook his head, suggesting to himself that he should no longer take the young man seriously, as today was his home court. 3 years agreement. No one can stop him from doing what he wants to do. Then he looked at Yiling Xuan, took a deep breath, and said, "Who do you think you are? Yelling in front of me? Well, I'll use you to warm up first." Chapter 422, Relentless Pursuit. The next moment, Mo Han attacked without warning, his eyes icy cold. Boom! Mo Han's body glowed with golden light, and a powerful aura burst out, like a golden rock in the sun, punching out. The fist light turned as bright as the sun, bursting out with scorching heat. After hearing the noise in the square, everyone subconsciously turned their heads. When he saw the scene, his face changed slightly. Late stage of the Great Power Realm? They didn't expect that this official had some strength, only one level lower than their holy son. No wonder he dared to come to the holy land of Heavenly Sword alone. It turns out he has some talent. At the same time, on one side of the square, Yiling Xuan also took action, and the magic sword in his hand suddenly slashed out. Although he did not expect Mo Han to be so unsportsmanlike, fortunately, he reacted quickly. As the son of the Holy Land, he demonstrated extremely high combat proficiency. The pale green sword light lit up, carrying a sense of softness. Obviously, he wanted to overcome hardness with softness. Not only that, Under this sword, a sword force actually rose up, and a strong wind blew, which was about to destroy everything, and the mountains and forests were shaking. The Qingfeng sword technique is fully developed. When some people saw this, their eyes widened. The Qingfeng sword technique is one of the heavenly grade skills in their holy land. It is extremely difficult to practice, but once it is mastered, it will unleash terrifying combat power. No one expected that Yi Lingxuan would achieve great success. Soon, everyone shook their heads at Mo Han, thinking that this official would not be able to withstand this move. Boom! The light from his fist was like the sun. Even though he blew a strong wind, he still couldn't extinguish the blazing flames. Under the fist light, the light green sword light was actually destroyed. Yi Lingxuan's face changed. He had no time to dodge and was hit hard by the punch, retreating dozens of meters. There was some blood flowing from the corner of his mouth, and there was something unexpected in his eyes. His fighting spirit was undiminished, as if he had a crazy energy. Interesting. Mo Han laughed. He didn't expect that the opponent could survive this punch. This is much more interesting than the opponents he defeated before. Well, let me use 50% of my strength to play with you. Two figures appeared at the same time, with light and shadow interweaving in the square as fast as lightning. The roar sounded from time to time, and in a blink of an eye, the two had already exchanged more than 50 moves. There was some disbelief in everyone's eyes. They seemed to see that the always invincible son of God was gradually falling into a disadvantage. As for the other guy, he became more and more courageous as the fight went on, and his Tianpong Sanzhou skills were extremely powerful. Above, Zhao Lei's eyes gradually became solemn. He had thought that the unknown boy who came to fight today was weak, but now it seems that it was true. No wonder he dared to come to the Holy Land and shout. Nangong Chen shook his head and muttered to himself, "We're going to lose. The strength of the Holy Son of the Heavenly Sword Holy Land is simply disgraceful." The next moment, an incredible voice rang out from the square. "Impossible." In the final exchange of blows, Yi Lingxuan vomited blood and flew backwards dozens of meters. Boom! He fell heavily on the stone wall and fell into a coma. Seeing this scene, the whole audience burst into an uproar. No one expected that Yi Lingxuan, their holy son, would be defeated so quickly. At this moment, the look in their eyes when they looked at Mo Han was filled with horror and fear. In the square, a strange color also flashed in Gu Mengling's calm and beautiful eyes. She was a little curious. How could the other party be transformed so completely in just a few years, like a completely different person? Although he did not show any extraordinary strength, she had a hunch that the other party should be more than that. Thinking of this, Gu Mengling's chest heaved slightly. She took a deep breath, and her delicate face was filled with solemnity. In this battle, she must give her all and must not be defeated by the opponent. Otherwise, the reputation of their holy land will be completely lost. On the other side, Mo Han retracted his fist and said coldly, "That's it. Is this the level of your holy land's holy son? I'm not saying anything, but you guys might as well go back to raising pigs." I collapsed before I even warmed up. Mo Han shook his head, his tone full of sarcasm. Seeing this scene, many people from the Holy Lands present were itching to attack together. But thinking of the other party's terrifying strength, these disciples gave up. "Boy, you'd better speak with some respect. Who do you think is raising pigs?" An elder stood up, his eyes wide with anger. Did they really let this official get away with it? It's not like they can't afford to lose. Seeing a strong man speak, these disciples also echoed, as if they had a backer to support them. "That's right, kid. If you want to get involved in this, you have to rely on your power. Don't let me stop you from even leaving the house." Talking about power? You can't even leave the door? When Mo Han heard this, the corners of his mouth inexplicably rose, and there was a bone-chilling coldness in his eyes. Later, he will show you what power is. Of course, all this requires him to defeat Gu Mengling first. Mo Han fixed his gaze on Gu Mengling, his tone cold. "It's time to end the 3-year agreement today. I will make you pay double for all the humiliation you inflicted on me. This is a fight to the death." A glint of brutality flashed across his eyes, and a chilling murderous intent burst out instantly. Gu Mengling said nothing and drew the black sword from her waist. There was no fear in her beautiful eyes. In an instant, the aura of a late powerful realm burst out. Everyone has their own consequences, and Gu Mengling never regrets anything she does. Although the two did not attack, it seemed as if there was a cold electric current intertwined, and a fighting spirit collided. Mo Han tore off his gray robe, revealing a silver battle suit, the cold light shining brightly, illuminating the world. This is the Tongtian battle suit, which he obtained by chance in a certain place. It is a wholly defensive armor. With it, he can almost be invincible in this battle. After seeing this scene, Some sharp-eyed people noticed that the armor on him was extraordinary and cursed him as shameless. Mo Han sneered repeatedly. So what if he was shameless? In order to become stronger, he was even thrown out of Zhongshenzhou. What was this little bit of face worth? Then, in order to maximize his chances of winning, he swallowed a bottle of Mingwang powder. Mingwang powder can help people maintain abundant energy during battle, speed up the recovery of body functions, and keep people full of fighting spirit, making them more courageous as the battle goes on. Everyone was a little stunned. Was this official going to fight or not? Why was he doing so many things? Above, Nangong Chen was also speechless. How come this son of luck was even more cowardly than the previous one? Put the buff here. Gu Mengling didn't know what to do for a moment. She didn't prepare so many things before the battle. But just when she was feeling uneasy, Mo Han took action. His eyes became more and more golden, and a pair of green wings grew behind him, flashing with lightning, as if the blue sky divine Peng had come to life. The next moment, his hands turned into blades, and he flapped his wings and flew away. A strong wind blew, and terrifying gusts of wind roared out. The blow was filled with murderous intent, as fast as lightning, almost tearing the void apart. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that if these gusts of wind fell on a person, the person would be wiped out in an instant. Even the most powerful people will suffer a bitter defeat here if they are not careful. And it just so happened that this attack was launched instantly by Mo Han. Obviously, he wanted to catch the opponent off guard. When everyone saw this, their eyes widened and they angrily called him shameless. Mo Han sneered. In order to win, he would use any means. Seeing that Gu Mengling was standing there, as if she was scared silly, his expression became more and more disdainful, as if he saw that she had turned into a bloody man under the strong wind. The woman who broke off the engagement with him back then was no more than this. Soon, Gu Mengling took action. The ink sword in her hand lit up 7 stars. As she raised the sword, heaven and earth resonated. She remained calm and swung her sword, and a sword light brighter than Yi Lungshuan's instantly burst out. The silver-white sword light swept across the entire square, and the astonishing star-like sword intent was also revealed to the world. Boom! The strong wind and the sword light collided, and a terrifying aftermath erupted. In an instant, a gust of air erupted from the center, shaking the grass and trees, and trembling the mountains and forests. After a few breaths, everyone could see everything in the square clearly, and their pupils suddenly shrank. Mo Han retreated dozens of steps, and the Tongtian battlesuit on his body blocked the opponent's sword light for him. A sword mark on his battlesuit was shocking, but fortunately, he was unharmed. On the other side, Gu Mengling was different. Although the sword had eliminated a lot of the strong wind for her, some of the residual power still hurt her. For a moment, a lot of bright red flowed on the moon-colored gauze skirt. Even Gu Mengling's delicate face had small scars left by the strong wind, which made people feel extremely pity. Obviously, in this move, both sides were tied, but Mo Han was wearing a battle suit, so he had the advantage. Seeing this, everyone stood up for the ancient saint and gnashed their teeth. This is totally unfair. How can I fight while wearing a holy armor? Yeah, you shameless little thief. You can only resort to these dirty tricks when you can't win. Mo Han sneered when he heard this and said, If you can, why don't you take one out? I didn't say you can't. After he finished speaking, all the elders present were in a dilemma. They want to take it, but how could this holy armor be so easy to take out? The key point was that they didn't have it. What's more, if there were any, they would have been descendants who were related to them by blood. How could they leave it to an outsider, even if the other party was an ancient saint? Above, Zhao Lei couldn't help but frown and clench his hands. It was ridiculous that as a saint, he was poorer than other strong men. This also meant that he had nothing to offer the other party except his sword skills. Nangong Chen looked at him silently, his eyes flickering, not knowing what he was thinking. When Mo Han saw this scene, the corners of his mouth rose even more. He knew that these people definitely didn't have it, so he was so confident. The holy battle suit was obtained by chance by him, so how could these people just take it if they wanted? At the same time, Gu Mengling felt a little weak, and her hands clenched slightly. She did not blame anyone for not giving her a battle suit. She had been alone from beginning to end and had long been used to it. However, she didn't know how to defeat Mo Han, who was wearing a holy battle suit. Soon, the two fought again. After 100 moves, Gu Mengling vomited blood. Her moon skirt was dyed bright red, and her face was extremely pale, like a flower about to break. Everyone present felt heartbroken after seeing this. They all knew that if the fight continued, Gu Mengling's life would be in danger. Zhao Lei's face darkened. He glanced at Gu Mengling with heartache and said, That's enough. We've lost the 3-year agreement. Let's just settle this. If he wasn't afraid of ruining his reputation, He really wanted to slap Mo Han to death. When everyone heard this, they all looked at Mo Han indignantly, saying how shameless. They could all see that if it weren't for that battle suit, the ancient saint lady would never have been defeated by the other party. Chapter 423. Caught in a dilemma. Even if I die, I have no regrets. At this moment, after hearing this, Gu Mengling's beautiful eyes were filled with unyielding spirit. I haven't lost yet. If the opponent didn't have that battle suit, she would never be at such a disadvantage. Gu Mengling held the star sword in her hand. Her gauze skirt had already been dyed red. She looked like a fairy in blood. The autumn wind blew, bringing a sense of brokenness. Mo Han laughed and said, "Did you hear that?" She said she didn't lose, so the battle should continue. There was also a hint of fear in his eyes. He had not expected that Gu Mengling would be so difficult to deal with. She was even stronger than the previous loser. If he didn't have this battle suit today, it's hard to say who will win or lose. But unfortunately, there is no if in this world. The law of the jungle has always been the truth among monks. I said I lost, and I lost. Zhao Lei's eyes were cold as he glanced at him. The majesty of a saint released without even getting angry. He could see that the other party clearly wanted to kill his disciple today. Seeing this, he wanted to take Gu Mengling away by force. But who would have thought that Mo Han was not only not afraid, but also blocked the way and smiled. "Saint Lord Zhao, do you want to break the rules? Well, you guys have insulted me time and time again, and now you want to stop and beat me up whenever I say so. Is that really possible?" Mo Han put away his smile, and his eyes became increasingly cold. The next moment, he waved his hand. Above the holy land of Heavenly Sword, more than a dozen powerful figures suddenly appeared. Nangong Chen watched this scene silently, as if he had expected it long ago. His expression was calm, but there was a cold light in his eyes. Then, he clenched his fingers slightly and stroked the jade-like Tianyuan Mansion. "You guys really kept me waiting." At this moment, more than a dozen powerful figures stood in the void. The three old men in the lead had an unfathomable aura. Their eyes were calm, their faces were withered and yellow, and just standing there gave people a terrifying sense of oppression. Behind them stood 10 guards in green armor, their eyes flashing with cold lightning and their bodies gleaming with cold light. Although his aura is not as terrifying as the three leading ones, it can be seen that he must be a top-notch strong man. What is most shocking is that they all have a green jade pendant around their waists, with the words Ningguang City engraved on it. The sudden arrival of these people caught the entire Holy Land off guard, and everyone was shocked and silent. In an instant, the whole audience was silent. Not long after, an angry roar was heard from the elders' seats. "How dare you, people from Ningguang City, trespass into my holy land?" After hearing this, everyone gradually came to their senses, their eyes filled with anger and confusion. Ningguang City is the dominant force in northern Shenzhou, founded by 3 top families, Song, Chun, and Jin. It can be said that in the entire northern Shenzhou, Ningguang City is the only existence that can compete with a holy land of their level. In recent years, due to resource issues, the atmosphere between the two sides has become increasingly tense, and conflicts have gradually broken out between the two sides. Coming here at this juncture, anyone with a discerning eye can see that the other party has ill intentions. In the void, under the watchful eyes of the crowd, the purple-robed old man in the lead shook his head, a hint of coldness in his eyes, and said lightly, "If we don't force our way in, I'm afraid that you guys would have kept me here today. I don't know what kind of people you are from the Heavenly Sword Holy Land." After he finished speaking, everyone was shocked. This Song family ancestor, Song Lingfeng, actually had such a relationship with Mo Han. Thinking of this, they looked at Mo Han with eyes full of fear. Mo Han seemed calm, but in fact, the corners of his mouth had already begun to uncontrollably smile. That's right, this is exactly the effect he wants. Isn't it about comparing backers? Then let's compare and see which one is bigger, yours, Gu Mengling, or mine. No one knew that he had rescued the 3 ancestors of Ningguang City in a cave somewhere before and got acquainted with them. What happened most coincidentally was that these 3 had a deep hatred with Gu Mengling's father, Gunan, tens of millions of years ago. Therefore, only after gaining the support of the 3 did he dare to meet Gu Mengling alone without any scruples. Now that the strong reinforcement from Ningguang City have arrived, the outcome is set. There is no hope for Gu Mengling today. That's right, we came here today just to support Mr. Mo. Soon, the old man in black robe with a thick beard also spoke, his muscles as terrifying as a dormant dragon. The remaining old man in the yellow robe and long hair also spoke up, saying calmly, "Young friend Mo is my benefactor. I will not tolerate your bullying today." As soon as these words were spoken, Mo Han was immediately moved, and at the same time, he felt an inexplicable sense of joy in his heart. Is this what it feels like to have someone to back you up? It's so cool. Mo Han spoke to the three people in a neither humble nor arrogant manner. I would like to thank the three ancestors for coming here today and giving up their lives to seek justice for me. After he finished speaking, the three ancestors looked at him with admiration in their eyes. It is rare to be able to remain calm in such a situation. He is worthy of being the genius they have high hopes for. It's okay, it's just a small matter. Little friend Mo, remember, today you will fight with the Heavenly Sword Saint girl as usual. With us here, I don't see who dares to break the rules. That's right. I'll see who dares to openly cover up in front of us and lose fairness. I won't sit idly by. Do whatever you want, whether you want to take the saint as a slave or kill her. As long as you are in this square, no one can stop you today. Song Ling Feng, Chen Yuan, and Jin Heng said in a domineering tone one after another. With the blessing of the saint's power, the words were like a huge bell, resounding throughout the whole area. The smile on Mo Han's face grew more and more frantic. Looking at the scarred body, his eyes were filled with evil fire. In that case, ancient saint, please come in. He made an elegant please gesture with a smile on his face. If you didn't know him, you would think he was a gentleman. After seeing this, everyone was a little frightened and felt more and more that this person was an absolute devil. In the square, everyone's pupils suddenly shrank, and then their faces became furious. They watched the entire battle today. If the opponent had not been wearing that battle suit, how could the ancient saint be defeated by him? Now, the ancient saint was seriously injured and unable to fight again. Even the Holy Lord said that they had lost, and this battle was considered a win for the other side. But in such a situation, he still refused to show mercy and continued to fight, determined to kill the saint. The saint was usually very kind to them, and they couldn't just watch her disappear like this. On the other side, Gu Mingling was pale and dying. The scars on her body were shocking, and she looked like a broken butterfly. She was trembling all over as she grabbed the black sword. Then, she tried to use the force to steady herself, but unfortunately, the next moment she was shaky and about to fall because of the injury on her leg. Seeing this scene, the people present were heartbroken and said in a trembling voice, "Saint, if they fight again, Gu Mingling will definitely die here today." On the other side, Mo Han and others watched the scene indifferently, looking superior and indifferent. Fortunately, when Gu Mingling was about to fall, she was supported by Zhao Lei. Zhao Lei's face was gloomy, his eyes full of anger. He glanced at the three high saints and gritted his teeth, saying, "Are you really determined to take this to the extreme? Will you not stop until you kill the holy maiden of my holy land? Just because of what that brat said." He really didn't expect that the kid on the other side actually had such a relationship with the three ancestors of Ningguang City, and even let the other party come all the way to support him. If there were only two of them, he could still fight them, but the remaining one would be a devastating blow to their holy land. If things go wrong, if a war really breaks out, his holy land will be in danger of being destroyed today. What's more, the 10 quasi-saints behind the other party this time are the famous Silver Armor Army, which is the killing weapon in Ningguang City. The other side has even taken such action, which means that they have already made plans to fight and massacre the Holy Land. Thinking of this, Zhao Lei said nothing, clenched his hands tightly, blood dripped from his fingertips, and he was in a dilemma. On one side is the Holy Land, and on the other side is the disciple he personally raised. No matter who was sacrificed, it was hard for him to accept. But at this moment, Mo Han smiled. At this point, Holy Lord, you don't still think that we want to kill Gu Mingling simply because she broke off the engagement with me and I hold a grudge against her, right? Zhao Lei glared at him, a chilling murderous intent bursting out. If this wasn't for this, then what was the reason? The three elders of Ningguang City seemed to know what he was going to say, and their lips curled up slightly. Under the gaze of everyone, Mo Han looked at Gu Mingling with a hint of pity in his eyes and said, "Gu Mingling is the daughter of Gu Nan, the dean of Tianyuan Temple thousands of years ago. She is the descendant of Sin. Gu Nan used a secret method to preserve her body, allowing her to awaken in this world. The three seniors came here this time for this matter." As soon as he finished speaking, the whole audience burst into an uproar. Everyone's faces were stunned, their minds went blank, and some of them couldn't believe it. The ancient saint, is she really the daughter of Gu Nan? You know, in that era, Gu Nan had a blood feud with many major forces in northern Shenzhou, including their Ningguang City. All the powerful people in Ningguang City were wiped out by Gu Nan, without a single one left alive. No wonder Ningguang City didn't hesitate to dispatch 3 saints and the Silver Armor Army this time. Thinking of this, everyone's faces turned pale. Doesn't that mean that the saint girl will definitely die today? Upon hearing this, Gu Mingling's pretty face turned pale. She quickly looked at Zhao Lei and said in a trembling voice, "Is my father really Gu Nan, the dean of Tianyuan Academy? Zhao Lei was silent for a moment. His face seemed to show hesitation, and after a few breaths he nodded slightly. Back then, I was in the far north mountains and accidentally discovered the ice coffin your father had set up. Inside was you. I thought she would blame me for not telling her that back then. But who would have thought that Goom Mingling's mouth corners would rise, her beautiful eyes would curve, and a brilliant smile would appear on her beautiful yet broken face. It turns out that I am not an orphan. I also have my own parents. They love me very much and have not abandoned me. Thinking of this, she felt satisfied. Even if death followed, she would have no regrets.